Good morning, Raptor Freaks. Lexi Otts here, and we're reacting to Game 1 of the first round of the playoffs against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And, well, the Raptors lost. Now, I want to say this, and I think that most of Raptors Nation is reacting to this correctly and not going crazy. And, it's really good that most people are mature enough to understand this is a 7-game series and that this is just the first game. And the proper way to react to losing on the road in the game 1 of the playoffs is not to overreact, because once again, for beginners of the NBA and the following the Raptors and being in the playoffs, this is Cleveland holding serve for the home court advantage. This is expected to a degree. Now, that's the whole thing, is like the game really changes in the series when a visiting team wins a road game. That's where things get really interesting in a series. And as we said yesterday in the preview for the game yesterday, what the Raptors should be hoping for is a split. They should be hoping for a split. And that is what they should try and get. Because if we can win the game on Monday, that's pretty much just as good as winning yesterday. And that's the whole thing. You go to Cleveland for the first 2 home games of the series for them, and you try and steal one. And, well, this was an interesting fact-finding mission. We saw what playoff intensity is. We saw how the referee changes. We saw how the pace of the game slows down. We saw all the kind of stuff that the playoffs is for our young core that haven't gotten a taste of it yet. Now, I would say this, that the Raptors played an excellent game for half the game. There was a huge chunk of the first half that was played extremely well and played in a way that I honestly thought the vibes were right, and that, you know what, from the way the first half went, even though they were winning at the end of the first half, I'm like, we can win this series. That there's a lot of energy that's actually supporting us to win this series. And there's a lot of things that were kind of happening that could have made us, win the game. And, I feel like we can win this series. There were a couple of things that were kind of signs of it. Now, they played at an excellent level, but then things kind of fell apart in the second quarter, near the end of the second quarter. And it was really catalyzed by some turnovers, some dumb turnovers. We were playing at a high level. We were playing very, very well. We were playing good defense. We were guarding people up real nice and doing all kinds of different stuff like that. But then a couple of bad turnovers and getting a little off of things. And then some of the Cavs getting going kind of like busted things open a little bit at halftime. We were only down by 7. But then in the third quarter, we fell apart. But for that period of time that was bad in the first quarter, there was a period of time in the second half where we did get things together and we looked very good at times too. So there was a little bit of a yin yang to the first and second halves of the game yesterday. First half was very, very good with a little bit of a bad spot. And the second half was mostly bad with a little bit of a good spot. So I say they played half of a good game. But that's the thing, Raptors. You're going to have to expand the excellence and doing things correctly for a whole 48 minutes. That you can play half a good game and then fall apart. And, well, you see veterans like James Harden and Donovan Mitchell will take advantage of that. And and another thing that I said yesterday that came true is the team that has more valid contributors that are contributing in major ways and the right kind of ways to them will win this game. And, Cleveland had a lot of different people helping out. Obviously, Harden and Mitchell were very top notch as a backcourt. Mobley had his moments, and we saw him and Allen get into the basket really crazy in the first half at times, just getting nice runs and dunks on the goal. And then you have an X factor like Max Strus busting the game open in the third quarter with a very proficient offensive explosion. And, then, you dabble in a 3-pointer here by Dean Wade, a 3-pointer here by Sam Merrill, this from Tyson guarding Ingram. You get different contributions from different Cavaliers that add up to more of a team win. And we had some of our guys doing the right things to contribute to a team win, but some of our guys were duds. Let's just put it that way. And some of it was the leadership, honestly, because I honestly was really impressed with the poise that Shed, Walter, and Murray-Boyles showed for their first playoff game ever. Shed getting the call to start in the place of Emmanuel Quickly and starting in his first ever playoff game in the NBA. And, Walter wasn't as big and shining in the spotlight as I thought he would, but he was solid in some ways. And he took the bright lights of the playoffs and he didn't kind of falter. In some ways, he kind of did okay, but Murray-Boyles even better. He really has no problem transitioning to the NBA or whatever level of playing basketball because the way he is. No, the problems I saw were, they had a really good game plan for Brandon Ingram. They limited his shots attempts to only 9. And Brandon was a little mad about that in the post-game conference, but in some ways he's not. I think people misread what he was saying. He was annoyed, but some people are trying to say he was mad at the coach. No, it's just that Darko needed to use as a screener. And in some ways, Brandon said, it's like, I'm trying to do whatever the team wants me to do to help, including blocking shots and rebounding, playing defense, doing whatever. Well, Darko asked him to be a screener a bit in the game. There's nothing wrong with that. Part of it was that they really did have an emphasis on denying Brandon the ball. And we were doing the same thing to people like Mitchell. There was some inbounds plays and different plays where we really covered up Mitchell and really made it so they couldn't even get the ball to Donovan. So they were doing the flip on us against Brandon with people like Jalen Tyson. And, there was a very interesting period in the game where Tyson was extremely physical with Brandon and he baited him and he wanted him to get all pissed and bow up to him. He was literally egging him on to fight him, a Draymond Green tactic. And Brandon didn't take the bait because he's a 10-year vet and he understood exactly what he's doing. And that kind of emotional fortitude to not get off your game just because there's an agitator in the game with you was a really good sign of things from him. Now, on the other hand, Scotty, he was playing very strong at times and he wasn't getting calls. And he actually did let his emotions get to him and get him out of the game for a second when he was yelling at Carl Lane and Tony Brothers for a call. And he kind of screwed up on defense after that. That's a classic problem with Scott his whole career, where he takes himself out of the next play because he's politicking at the wrong time to get the call. You got to go when the whistle's called and it's dead ball. You can't do this in the middle of the game, Scott. You're going to cause easy baskets for the other team. In fact, they held us to hardly any fast break points, but when you did that, you gave them fast break points. When you did that, we saw Scotty burst out for a little while in the second half, showing his true power. And that's what I'm saying. This is the thing that annoys me is that, sure, Scott, you can start the game with the 3 threes in the first quarter, and that is impressive. And honestly, I love that. If you can sustain that and do that throughout the game, that's fantastic. But I know it's not usually realistic unless you're doing something, having a crazy career day or something. But yeah, I don't like it sometimes when he makes a bunch of threes early because I know that he may try and be lazy and just do a whole bunch more later. That's the classic thing where announcers and coaches have said, yeah, let him get open threes early. If he makes a few, well, that'll encourage him to make a lot. And take a lot. And I'll bet you he won't make a lot later. So you don't want Scotty to get lackadaisical and hang out outside too much. The threes were good for when they happened, but he should have been moving towards the basket more and more with his offense as the game went on. And, the threes open things up for him. Then you start shooting mid-range, and then you're also attacking the basket too. And there was a section in the second half where Scotty did really do a good job of being aggressive and attacking. And that's a case where, once again, you're telling on yourself, Scott, that you can do this, but you need to find a consistency to it throughout all 4 quarters. The best quarter that we had in the game last night was the first quarter. And it really was because Scotty and Brandon were dialed in already and they were doing what the level of output they're supposed to be doing. But that drops off as the game goes on. And if we don't have Scotty and Brandon stepping up and doing high level stuff in all 4 quarters, we could be in trouble in winning games in this series. So, whatever the excuse is, whether they were denying Brandon the ball, whether coach didn't do the schemes right to get Brandon the more shot opportunities, whatever it is, they need to find Brandon more. That is definitely true. And him having frustrations about that, well, that's understandable. But, also understand that frustrated energy is partly from the Cleveland defense just getting in the way and being annoying, and specifically Jalen Tyson. So, yeah, Shed was amazing to a degree, but also very frustrating to me also. That's the double-edged sword of Jamal Shed and what he can be. I found that one of the things that annoyed me the most about him is, you got, there's one of the reasons why the Raptors were successful at the end of the season was urgency. That, they weren't playing with urgency. And when they did play with urgency, they found a lot of success in the last couple weeks of the season. And that's what they have to have again. Like, this is the playoffs. What are you doing? Don't stand around. You have to have urgency. You have to go get it. And I feel like there's a certain easy lackadaisicalness that some of our guys will fall into when they feel comfortable. You should never feel comfortable out there, Jamal Shed. You need to be at it, go, 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 green light, go all the time. And I found like there was a couple of possessions where Scotty was working really hard to try and generate offensive energy and make some open shot by moving quick, trying to move the ball around, and then it would go out to Shed, and he just hold it and stand there for like 3 seconds, and he'd kill all of the built up kinetic energy that Scott or somebody else did by doing moves, and then it just died, the energy and all the work that we tried to do already in the shot clock to get towards an open shot would be killed off because Shed's just standing there with the ball and holding it, kind of assessing things. It's a similar thing to what Fred VanVleet used to do, which annoyed me. It's like we work so hard to work the ball to get a paint touch, and then they kick it out to you on the 3-point line, and you just stand there like a deer in headlights and hold the ball. Like, oh, okay, now you just let the defense completely reset, and we have to go through in a lesser shot clock trying to work the ball around and maneuver it to get a better shot. I hate that so much. You guys can't be deer in headlights. You guys can't stand there and pause. You can't fucking do this. You have to telegraph. You have to be ready for your next move at all moments. And there's no standing around reassessing and trying to analyze what you should do next. And the two guys that pissed me off the most for this were Shed and Brandon. Because Brandon, listen, they're not going to give you anything easy. And when you do get the ball and you get the opportunity, well, you told on yourself in the last week of the season that when you're aggressive and you're coming downhill and you're threatening them and you're doing stuff like that, that's when you're the most dangerous because you put people on the defense on the back of their heels and coming back. But you're not finding that energy in the first game yesterday. You have to be, because I saw you get the ball and you're kind of taking too long to decide. You can't wait, bro. You can't be lackadaisical and going into your motions. You got to get the ball and go right into them aggressively, because that's what you did in the game against Miami near the end of the season, where you looked like Kobe Bryant. You were very, very methodical, aggressive, and you had it all sorted out before the ball even came to your hands. Now, if you're trying to be improvisational and try and figure it out that way, no, you can't. You have to have an idea what you're going to do, Ingram, and you need to go right into your motion. You can't take a second to think about it. This is what's giving a second to the defense of the Cavs to get set and get organized, and it's killing us. It's killing us. And in a half-court offense, I know it's tough. And everybody, and a couple people in the chat yesterday were saying, "Why aren't we running more?" Well, this is the way the playoffs are, guys. If we can be a running team in the playoffs, that's not easy to do, because first of all, the refs gatekeep the flow of the game, and it's a slowed down slog, Eastern Conference drag out, low scoring defensive kind of game, half court game. That's just the way the playoffs have always been. It's to think that the Raptors are just going to get abundance of fast break opportunities and just run them off the court. Well, that's folly, because that is not going to happen. In some ways, the Raptors are going to need to be a half-court offensive team to be successful in the postseason. And that's why a lot of this is centered around whether we can get Brandon going or not. RJ was valiant in the third quarter when we were down and that big, huge lead opened up and they called the timeout. RJ put us on his back, and he tried to go in and score when we were having a hard time. And in some ways, he's a powerful weapon in the half court offense, just bullying his way to points for us. That's the thing. These guys can't take a time off. They can't be like the Raptors in the regular season. They cannot have ups and downs with their quality of play. They got to have a solid level of excellence that is throughout the whole game for them to be successful in the playoffs. I think we're the better team than them. I think we match up so well with them, and I think that we can kick their ass. I saw it in the first half. It's just that they've got to get the jitters over. They've got to understand what they can and cannot do, and they have to be ready to be aggressive and take it to them. They cannot wait to take it to them. They've got to take it to them, because when they take it to them, they're the most powerful Raptors they can be. Yeah, we're going to do the stars of the game. We've got Raptors and Tempo Redditors of the day. And we've got birthdays, all kinds of fun stuff. The classic car of the day. It's a Raptor Freak stream. And, well, that's my first general reaction to the game yesterday. I appreciate most of Raptors Nation not crashing out and being nephews and having the wisdom and maturity to understand this is just a game for game one. I guess we've been through enough of these that people understand how to handle them better than in the past years. And I appreciate that. We could think about how they treated the Raptors in the championship run after game one against Orlando. That was a scene of just stupidity, honestly, with Raptors Nation. There's a lot to talk about today. It's kind of interesting. All right, let me get right in the chat. We'll talk to Trevor J first, the commissioner of fun. Good morning, Trevor. Everything in life is temporary. So when it's good, let yourself enjoy it fully. And when it's not, remember, it won't last forever. I like that. That can be kind of applied to right now. We get another chance to play the Cavs tomorrow. It'll be at a regular time in the day. And hopefully we can have a better outcome. These guys need to adjust. These guys need to be motivated. In some ways, we saw the signs of Scotty more motivated to try and do something by the end of the game, because in some ways he didn't have a good stat line. And, well, he needed to go out there and get a few more points in a monstrous way like he did in around the third quarter, end of the third quarter there into the fourth, just to make a statement. But, yeah, you got to have that energy the whole game, Scott. And you can't afford to be tired, man. You can't afford to be tired. These games are not back-to-backs. They're spaced out. You got the same opponent. You need to be going all out. You guys cannot be lackadaisical, and you need to go all out. And you can't wait. And if you can bully Evan Mobley like you did at times in the game last night, you need to do it more often. The first foul call on Scotty was fair. Brent Bernecki called an offensive foul when he sweeped his arm up into Dean Wade's face. And, well, in some ways, I get that because, RJ and Scotty and a couple of guys were playing with a little bit more physicality, and they were uptick everything for the playoffs. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just don't get caught. And in some ways, a cheap shot on Dean Wade's face right off the bat from the beginning of the game is not necessary, Scott. So that was the right call when Bernecki called the offensive sweep arm into Dean Wade's face. It was a cheap foul, and it was dumb. It was not the right way for him to get his first foul. The second foul, that was a regular kind of foul, nothing to see here. But, getting two fouls in the first quarter, as Darko said in the post-game interview, it changed his rotations for the game after that Scott got that early foul then. I liked what Darko did for the most part with rotating guys, because the thing was there was foul trouble. There were a lot of fouls on the Raptors in the first half. And so he had to kind of juggle in Mamu and Colin and Jacoby in certain ways with that in mind, and kind of balance it. Yeah. Let's see. Trevor's saying this. Everyone is getting mad after one loss. It's not the end of the road. Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see people acting like that. Maybe I've just done a good job of staying away from the bad places on social media where it's just not worth my time. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of this. Even on Reddit, most people are taking this very maturely and with a lot of wisdom of knowing this. There's not a lot of people crashing out in dumb ways, which is good. Which is good. Whatever you're seeing, Trevor, well, maybe that tells you you don't need to be in that place anymore. If you're seeing this this kind of energy from people, because I'm not seeing it. Really, I'm not. I've seen a lot of supportive comments in the interviews and even on the posts from the NBA's highlight reel. People talking more about the Cavs and different things, but not really dumping on the Raptors. And Raptors fans not really overreacting, kind of saying, well, this is the first one. You guys had to get your first try. But wherever that's happening, I'm glad I'm missing seeing it because I haven't seen a whole lot of it. Seriously. Maybe it's also because after the game, I don't want to dwell on the game for the rest of the day. I move right into another aspect of my life and I go do something else with my life. It's like that's very healthy too. The game's so early in the day, you're done by four something. Go do something else for the rest of the day and make the rest of your day better. Just because the Raptors lost, that's another thing to do right there. Trevor's saying we're a very young team, but no playoff experience, only like 4 players, while James Harden 120 playoff games and Donovan Mitchell 50 playoff games. Yeah, that counts for something. That does count for something. But the guy who has the most playoff experience on our team is Garrett Temple. So it's kind of like, his playoff game experience doesn't really add to like the nucleus because he's a, end of the bench guy. And after that, I think the next guys who have the most playoff experience are Emmanuel and RJ, and a little bit of experience from Jakob, and very little experience from Scotty and Brandon. So, and then none for the rest of them. 0 until yesterday. Well, that's the thing. They had to go through this. The Raptors tradition of losing the first game of playoff series. This is something that's been talked about way in the past more, but not as much recently. They showed that graphic, and Danielle Michaud is so good at showing the ugly sides of things for the Raptors. Thank you, Danielle, for being a jerk and being the same kind of energy as Raptors Delight, that stupid ass Dark Side of the Raptors documentary that Rogers put out. Yeah, she's annoying. She'll glaze Donovan Mitchell for like 10 minutes, and then she'll talk about all the failures of the Raptors in their history. Yeah, Michaud, I still have 2-finger salute for you. Fuck you, Danielle Michaud. I still have that for you. It's like, oh, our sideline reporter is very unbiased. In fact, she'll trash our team on our show all the time, and she'll glaze the hell out of the opponents. Yeah, she's so annoying for that. But yeah, let's keep going in the chat. Let's see. Trevor's saying Timberwolves, Rockets, and Atlanta all lost yesterday. Why don't you just say all the home teams won yesterday? It's like NBA script writing hit all its marks yesterday, including the Lakers winning their game late, which, they're delighted by that, of course. It's very dubious that Kevin Durant was out for the first game right away. I mean, that sucks, man. Like, why does this happen? Which Kevin Durant, you're supposed to stay healthy and it's the playoffs and you need to be there for your team, but he wasn't. And the young Rockets lost to the injured Lakers. Does this mean the Lakers going to win this series? No, doesn't mean that still, but they'll at least get the good feeling of a Game 1 victory so everybody can party on a Saturday night. But yeah, I mean, NBA storylines were in effect. I mean, they want Jokic to win. They want New York to win. They want the Lakers to win, and they don't want the Raptors to win. There was a lot of psyops kind of bullshit going on at our game yesterday. Did you notice for the whole third quarter they had the American flag on the scorers table and celebrating America 250-year birthday? Yeah, in some ways, that is not totally like a benign display of colors at this point, since the United States has become a terrorist country that's bombing Iran for no good reason at all and is kind of like a terrorist state at this point. I mean, Israel is a terrorist state, and so is the United States. So, kind of in a matchup where the only Canadian teams playing Cleveland, throwing that up in the third quarter and our guys playing that way, in some ways, that's annoying. That's annoying. That's psyops kind of shit. That's State Department kind of shit. And it has fucking Kash Patel and all kinds of assholes from the U.S. government written all over it. There's a lot of little signs I'm seeing around society that are ugly, and some of it is branding, and imagery that they're putting in front of us that you guys don't even realize is kind of insidious. Like, let's take Doug Ford's Protect Ontario campaign. Let's take that bullshit. What is he doing? He's making all these commercials, spending the taxpayers' money on a crazy public ad campaign, which is a waste of money, honestly. He goes and buys a $28 million jet for himself this week. That's so Trump like. And like, we want our taxpayers' money to go towards him buying his own private jet, you know? And then he has this Protect Ontario campaign, which is utilizing red, white, and blue as its colors. You don't think that that's not subliminal in a way that I just said? That, you know, he fucking is going to be part of, if there's any kind of bullshit with our sovereignty and Canada not staying itself an own independent country, well, no, people like the PC and Doug Ford are going to be part of the accomplices of fucking with us and us being Canada. You know, it's a very bold statement to put out a big new logo that has red, white, and blue in it, Doug Ford. It gives away your intentions right away. I see all the patterns and I see all the underlying shit before other people do. So understand that Protect Ontario bullshit that's going on with that shield with the red, white, and blue in it. Do you read through that too, just like I do, and understand it? It's since I brought it up to you right now. So understand the Premier of Ontario is not for Canada, and he's definitely not for us as the people. If he's going to go and waste $28 million of our money on his own jet, and he wants to get control of Billy Bishop just to do some bullshit with his jet and all this other shit. Anyway, I digress. But please be aware of logos and branding and the way that it manipulates us. It's as simple as Amazon using that swoop arrow to make it like a smile to try and make you love Amazon more. You know, there's very, very kind of fucked up imagery coming from the NBA as a whole. They're coming out with new logos for all the teams where their logos are scratched like ours. Like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, I always read into symbolism, and there's a lot of weird branding and symbolism around the NBA and Ontario right now, is what I'm saying. So open your eyes and understand why the fuck is blue in that fucking shield, Doug Ford. That's what I'd fucking say to him right now. Yeah, all right, I digress. I'll go. I just want to bring that up for a second just to bring attention to it. That's all. Jimmy Pope is here, the Pope of Positivity. Let's see what he's saying right here. Excuse me. The way I look at it is we showed we can compete with these guys in the first half. They adjusted and we couldn't counter. Tall task for Darko, but we shall see. He's got to figure out how to defend that pick and roll with Harden and Allen. They know Yak is playing high, and 90% it's an easy read because there's not enough help side rim protection. Tough. Yeah, that was a total fail. That was what resulted in Jared Allen getting monster dunks right from the start of the game. The easy fix, and this was suggested by Josh Lundberg of TSN in the press conference after the game, is are you willing to change your starting lineup in the next game? And in some ways, look, it may in some ways make more sense to have Yak out there starting, but if you want to try new things, you start Colin instead and see if he can guard that pick and roll better. In some ways, it seems like he would. I don't know. I think Yak's lying. I think Yak is telling us that he's fine and he feels 100%, but I don't think he is. I think that it may be team proprietariness, like of not letting it be known what's going on. Kyle Lowry lied about how he was hurt the whole entire championship run to the press and everybody else. And that may very well be a way that the Raptors like to handle this kind of stuff, is to be secretive and not actually really let know what's going on. I think he's lying. I think that Yak's back is a little bit messed up right now, and that's why he's so slow right now. I'm just being honest. I love Yak, and we saw him block Allen. We saw him get more rebounds than most of the whole team. So he was doing very important things out on the court. It's just that action and the way Kenny Atkinson got them to do that pick and roll was not working with the defensive people that we had out there. And I know it's easy to point fingers at Yak and say that he's the weak link and he's the one that causes that easy pick and roll action for the Cavs. I mean, I'm going to disagree with that. And I would say this, I didn't like Shed starting in some ways because he needs to be the backup point guard. And I would have been happier if Walter had started. So I don't know if they have a different starting lineup tomorrow. Maybe Quickly returns because he's healthy. Maybe they do try somebody else in the starting lineup instead of Yak. Like they could try Sandro instead of Colin too. They could go either one of those two guys. I mean, we'll just have to see. There was a moment where Yak knew he was about to come out of the game and he went crazy with motivation and he started to make a lot of things happen all of a sudden, like getting blocks and rebounds and scoring some baskets. He saw that he had not scored anything too. And of course, these guys, that they know that we're going to go over the box score and we're going to look at the stats and they people are going to be talking about what they see on the numbers. And if the numbers look real bad, then they'll come at people with knives out. So I know that Yak was extra motivated in that section where Sandro got up to go to the scorer's table to come in. Yak saw it and he went above and beyond. And actually, Darko left him in the game and let him continue to play because he went above and beyond. See, that's the thing. Yeah, if you see Sandro coming in, you can go to another level. You need to just do that level the whole time. You know this, man. You've been in this league so long. And, the pain is temporary. And the time on the court is only 48 minutes. And you got to go all out in that window of time. Don't leave anything in the fuel tank. You got to go all out and do everything in the possible time while you're out there. And that goes for Scotty. That goes for Pirtle. That goes for Ingram too. You guys all got to go all out the whole time. If you're not absolutely dead tired at the end of the game and you didn't leave it all on the court, then you didn't do good enough. You didn't do well enough in what you were assigned to do for that game. If you are not absolutely winded and dog tired, you're going to have 1 day off, 2 days off between a lot of these games. So the recovery period is there for you guys to go all out every single game in this playoff. And you need to. You absolutely need to. And some of y'all are telling on yourselves that you could go above and beyond Scotty Barnes. As far as there's levels and shifting gears into higher gears all of a sudden while you're out there. We can see this. That's right. Alan Tam is here. Bam, son. Good morning, Alan Tam, a great Canadian, showing the Maple Leaf flag there. I love it. Josh Monroe's in the house. Let's see what he's saying. Rap's going to have uphill battle. They need to get something right in their actions and what they want to do, not only ISO or constantly passing out to be more organized and get different people going. Yeah, let's start with the stars of the game at this point. Last night or yesterday afternoon, I should say, RJ Barrett set a record for Canada and Canadians in Toronto. He scored the most points as a Canadian in their first playoff game for the Raptors. It's a record, and he gets the number one star from me yesterday. RJ at a point where we were kind of like floundering and nobody was doing anything right. RJ was the steady baseline of going to get points when things were hard. And honestly, at that point in the second half, when RJ was kind of being a ball hog and shooting a lot, I was here for it. I was like, man, put us on your back and carry us, RJ. Carry our team if you have to. If Scotty and Brandon are not effective for whatever reason, RJ, this is the thing with you as the third banana, that you have to step up and do that for us. And at least we have that safety procedure of Barrett being a bully and bullying his way to get manufacture points through going to the paint and getting the free throw line. So yeah, RJ, 31 minutes, 24 points, 7 of 13 from the field. So he shot very efficient. Everybody still, the old scout on RJ still, he's a toxic asset. Nobody wants him, but they don't know the updated news on him. That's not the scout on him anymore. It really isn't. 3 for 6 from the three. He had nice threes at times. 7 of 9 at the free throw line. In fact, he shot better at the free throw line than Scotty and Brandon. So I'm for that, man. It's like RJ and Yak, they both shot together 9 for 11 at the free throw line. RJ missing 2 free throws, and that's it. And those are the two guys that are the worst free throw shooters on our team. Maybe Trace and Sandro are a little bit up there near with them too. But those two guys did really well with the free throws yesterday. So you can't get mad at RJ for that. But Brandon and Scotty, they were missing free throws in weird ways they should not have been. 2 rebounds for RJ, 3 assists, 4 turnovers. I don't like those, but there was bad turnovers in different ways for our guys and different things. And that's what Darko said was the key to the game, is that we did not take care of the ball our normal way of being very protective of the ball. And there were way too many turnovers occurring, and we got to tighten up. And this is actually something we've done very good of the whole season with. And some of the turnovers were just boneheaded, dumbass turnovers. Like maybe Colin Murray-Boyles putting a little extra behind the back pass. You don't need to be cute. Keep it simple. And communicating with Brandon Ingram on a really dumb play that didn't have to happen. You don't have to be extra like that, Murray-Boyles. You're a rookie. So just pass the fucking ball to him. You don't have to do anything fancy like a behind the back pass. And Shed, you've got to tighten up, man. Darko gave you these rules when you first came in the league that you're not allowed to make turnovers. And honestly, in some ways, your initial turnovers in the second quarter were what spiraled us out of control into losing this game. You were the catalyst, Shed, because you got in there and you made boneheaded plays. You froze up, or you didn't make good passes, and the Cavs were off and running, and that really started the spiral of us losing the game. And that was why it was weird, because like, I'll finish up with Barrett real quick. He had a steal, a -16. When we'll do the second star is Shed. Even though Shed frustrated the hell out of me, he had a fantastic game too. It was like two sides of things. He's making his threes. He's playing pretty good defense, but at the same time, he's causing turnovers, and he's pissing me off in certain ways. But Shed's my second star of the game. 28 minutes for Jamal in his first ever playoff game. 17 points on 6 of 11 shooting, 5 of 6 from 3. Yeah, the threes going in were awesome from Shed. The threes going in from Shed were big time, and him getting some points was really, really huge for the Raptors. But in some ways, his leadership as a point guard is pissing me off. In some ways, that's the area of his game that looks like he's a second-round pick. Seriously. That's the area of his game that's kind of messed up. Is honestly his playmaking. And the way that he kind of leads the offense in half court is bad. He's not a good half court offensive leader. He's not a good point guard in a half court set. He's good in transition, and he's good for defense and some stuff. But he, in some ways, Shed is a very flawed point guard with some of the stuff on the playmaking, because he makes lazy passes and he doesn't read the defense correctly often. He's got to get better at that kind of stuff. Yeah, but the 5 for 6 from 3 was awesome. He missed a and one free throw that he had early, which was annoying. 1 rebound, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, a -6. Yeah, that's symbolic of the team's assist to turnover ratio was not good last night. And that's been one of our best stats all year. He had 2 assists with 2 turnovers. So that's null and void. But it was the 5 for 6 from 3 that really gave him the second star to me. My third star is our rookie, Colin Murray-Boyles, and he is the only other star we have. Those are the 3 stars of the game to me: RJ, Jamal, and Colin Murray-Boyles. Colin off the bench, 20 minutes, 14 points on 7 of 8 shooting. He took a 3 at one point, which, was ill-advised in some ways at that time, but why not? If it goes in, it's huge. But he hadn't been taking a whole lot of threes in the second half of the season. And so to see him reappear with a 3 all of a sudden, I mean, it was true. The Cavs did give it to him and left him open. And the protocol with Darko is, yeah, go ahead and take the 3. But to me, in some ways, that's not the best shot at that point in the game, especially since he hasn't really been shooting a lot of threes in the last 6 months, really. He shot a lot of threes at the beginning of the year, but he really went far away from that. But, it wasn't a bad shot. He could have made it. 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and a turnover, -15 for Colin. Colin's fantastic at passing to other people, and I like him in there battling. And, he's a big, strong guy. He's just learning, man. This is orientation year. He's learning about the 82-game schedule. He's learning about the postseason. He's learning about NBA lifestyle. He's learning about the grind and the routine of it all. And, and just like Scotty in his first playoff experience, that's where Colin is now. He's really just so at the beginning of his journey that with years of seasoning and more experience, he will be able to help the Raptors in more and more ways in postseason stuff as he learns more. But a great first step into the postseason, honestly. He didn't fail. He played well enough to get one of the stars, and he looked good. And I would say the same thing for Walter and Shed, even though they could have been even better. They could have been even better. Going with a honorable mention, I'll go ahead and give Scotty an honorable mention, even though his 5 turnovers pissed me the hell off. And he's one of the guys, when they let Scotty be the point guard because Emmanuel's out and Shed's kind of not effective in some ways, Scotty all of a sudden is the point guard. That's dangerous at times because you're opening up Scotty to make bad passes and get turnovers. And he will do that. And 32 minutes for Barnes, 21 points on 6 of 14 shooting, 3 of 4 from 3. Those 3 threes in the first quarter set a tone, but they didn't sustain. 6 for 9 at the free throw line. Yeah, it's just a couple of misses at the free throw line. Very annoying. And when those free throw misses are at the beginning of the game, they kind of set the tone in a bad way in certain ways. Like the free throw line should be sacred. You guys need to take every single point you need. I mean, Kaloy said in the Discord early in the game, he said those free throws are going to come back to haunt us at the end of the game. And, it wasn't even close enough for them to actually be the reason why we lost. But they don't help that we missed like 7 free throws in the first half of the game. That doesn't help at all. These guys got to hit these free throws. 1 rebound, 7 assists, 5 turnovers for Scotty, a minus 22, which is actually the lowest plus minus on our team yesterday. So we were outscored by 22 points when Scotty was on the court. That's not the X factor all around badass player that Scotty's supposed to be with his impact on the game and winning. You're not supposed to be the one with the worst plus minus, Scotty. So you got to figure out what you need to do to wake up and make sure that you're playing winning minutes on the court for the Raptors. Brandon Ingram was frustrating. His frustrating, not necessarily what, I've already kind of touched on the things that are annoying to me about him as far as he needs to go into his motion immediately when he gets the ball and stop letting them have time to come with the double or set up for him. Understand what you're going to do right away, just like Kobe Bryant would, and go right to it. You're not letting, just to a degree, they are going to give you the signs of what you should do because you can react to whatever they're giving you. But at the same time, you should also have a Mamba mentality where you're like, I'm going to go do this. And I've already premeditated that I can go do this because I'm Brandon Ingram and I have offensive skills like this. And in some ways, I feel like you're too slow to make up your mind, Brandon, to go to the action that you have chosen to do. So speed up your decision making. And I would say also the way you played in that one Miami game where you were aggressively going at them and making them feel like you're going downhill. You said you want to do this. Well, you got to figure out the way to do it. And hopefully Darko will figure out schemes to help you get in these situations better. Sometimes it is as simple as letting you dribble the ball up the court and initiate the offense into this half-court offense without having to get an entry pass in the post or for you to get free from them guarding the hell out of you. So, that's the thing. They're going to have to figure out how to get Brandon more shot attempts and better quality shot attempts because, he was hitting pretty good. He looked good when he had his chances, but they limited his chances. They limited him. 5 for 9 from the field. 9 field goals is not enough, and Brandon was frustrated by that. I get that. Some people are misreading his anger as something towards the coach or his team. That's not what that is. He's just frustrated because he knows he could have helped more if he had had the opportunity. He missed his only 3, 7 of 10 at the free throw line. Yeah, some of the free throw misses were very early. He cleaned it up as the game went on. But once again, you miss free throws, right? If you're the first guy that gets free throws for the Raptors, you need to fucking make them. I'm sorry. If you're the first one that gets to the line for the whole entire team for the night, you have to fucking make your free throws because in some ways you set the tone for the whole rest of the game at the line. If you're clunking them right away, that can get infectious. That can go viral among the players. And then everybody's kind of just missing free throws more often than they should. So take the initiative. First person that comes to line. If you see Yak and RJ making their free throws late in the game when we're way down and they know that it's so crucial, Well, Scotty and Brandon at the beginning of the game, when you get your free throws, you better fucking make them then, because these guys are trying to make them later, and they're not better free throw shooters than you guys. So you guys got to make your free throws. 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 turnover, and 1 block for Brandon, a minus 19. Yak's stat line is weird. In some ways, it's annoying. And look, I don't like all the slander against him, but Pirtle, in some ways, you've got to produce and do certain things so we can have ammunition to shut them up. But if you have games like you did yesterday, it's going to be hard for me to defend you against your detractors and the people that don't like you, Yak. I want to defend the hell out of you. You've got to give me ammunition. You got to. 21 minutes, only 4 points for Yak, 1 of 2 from the field, and 2 of 2 at the free throw line. So I can point at that. 6 rebounds. He was the second leading rebounder for us. 2 assists, 2 turnovers, a steal, and 2 blocks. And he was even. I mean, I could point to that stat. When Yak was on the court, we were even with them. They didn't outscore us. We didn't outscore them. It was 0. So he had to have some factor of helping us, even if his stat line doesn't look that good. And the eye test looks like he's a step too slow. There was a point where he got motivated, like I said, when Sandro was coming in, and he looked like he got going in a little bit more of a like, yeah, I'm pissed off and I'm putting a lot of effort in. You know, I want to go do the Raptors Redditor of the day right now because it's hilarious. This is it's in Dune again, Anuna Dune again, and he's got this idea for Pirtle. It says, quick fix for the Pirtle issue. He just needs to change his look. And basically, they want him to go get a bunch of tattoos and shave his head bald. And it says, once he looks like this, he can just clothesline Jared Allen. They want him to go look like Birdman with a shaved head, is basically what they want Yak to do. That's a funny Raptors Redditor of the day. In some ways, that would be really weird if Pirtle showed up to game 2 with his head shorn, with no hair on his head all of a sudden. That would look really interesting. I don't know. That may be intimidating or weird for people. They're like, holy shit, what did Yak do? Either way, I think that's funny that Raptors Redditor put that up there, that they think he should go get a bunch of tats and shave his head to get an edge. You know, he is a nice guy, and he does look like a nice dude, and he does kind of play a nice kind of way. Maybe there is an edge that Yak needs to find. Seriously. Let's keep going. Sandro Mamu was kind of not there for us in some ways. Sandro, 20 minutes, 3 points. He made a 3, basically, and that's it. 1 for 3 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. 8 rebounds, though, our leading rebounder. 2 assists, 0 turnovers, and a steal, a -4. You know, he wasn't really in the game a whole lot in paramount kind of minutes. In some ways, the Sandro effect of adding to our team, and he's been very helpful with win shares this year, wasn't totally felt in this game. I think part of it was that we doted on Colin coming in more and being in part of the minutes, but it just didn't seem like Sandro got in his flow offensively in this game in any kind of way. So maybe we need to look for Mamu more in game 2 tomorrow. Trace Jackson Davis got out there for 2 minutes, and he got 2 points on 2 of 2 free throws shooting. He had a turnover. Jamison Battle, 3 minutes late in garbage time, missed his only 3-point shot, 0 points for him. I'm +6, though. Jonathan Mobo got a dunk in there, which, you know, he got his first playoff points in his life. So that's kind of cool. Jonathan, you've scored in the playoffs. AJ Lawson, he's an honorable mention. You know, AJ actually had the highest plus minus for the Raptors yesterday. He was a +11, and you saw him working. You know, it's interesting that RJ and AJ in some ways were the guys who were really putting it all out there for us. The Canadian guys, once again. And that's why I really do value having guys from our country that play for our team, because they really do go all out. You saw a special chemistry with AJ and Scotty. They were actually playing off each other, really natural chemistry there, where AJ heard Scotty yell out and he immediately got the ball to him, even though he had his back to him. Good communication by Scotty, because he had a post up on a guard of the Cavs, and AJ delivered right away and got it to him. Of course, AJ's going to get you the ball, Scott. He better listen to you if he wants to be around the Raptors and play more. You're the franchise player. And AJ Lawson is there to please, and he is there to set you up. And then also, you know, there's stuff with AJ cutting where he's a great target for Scotty to hit for different stuff. Lawson, 2 points, though. He could have scored more, I would think, in 14 minutes. 1 of 4 from the field. He missed both his 3 attempts. 3 assists, 1 turnover, and a block, a plus 11. I love the challenge by A.J. Lawson on that one play, and they went and challenged it, and he got rewarded with a block. Tony Brothers gave him a foul at first, and then they challenged it, and it was all ball, and it was a successful challenge for the Raptors. So, that block was huge, because in some ways that's AJ Lawson standing for GTA and saying, no, this is a Cavaliers big coming at the basket. I'm a guard. I am going to stop him. I am going to stop him. And he did. He did. He had a couple of really key defensive kind of plays, stopping players near the basket as a smaller player. And that's the heart in him, playing for his country and playing for his city. That's it right there. Jacoby Walter, 28 minutes, 7 points, 2 of 5, 1 of 4 from 3. He made both his free throws, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 0 turnovers, a -6. Just a muted version of Jacoby. In some ways, this is what happens with playoffs and young players, is they don't really play at their highest level in the regular season. They revert back to where they started as like maybe a rookie, or their first initial kind of steps in the NBA when they first get into playoffs, and they have to build their playoff portfolio into like how they build their regular season portfolio over time. So like, even though Jacoby has been outstanding since the All-Star break in the regular season, it all resets in the second season, and he's got to reestablish himself on the new intensity of the playoff level. And we saw Jacoby put in a game like he would put in as a rookie last year. Not so much a huge impact, but he's playing solid, and we want more, is what I would say. Grady got out there for 2 minutes, and he caught a rebound, and that's it. But everybody got their playoff virginity taken. As far as these guys all got their little taste, even if they didn't get a whole lot of time, some of the guys at the end of the game, but at least they all got out there, and they can all say they played in the NBA playoffs now, including Grady Dick. Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough game. And, I appreciate RJ and AJ a lot, because in some ways they were putting it on for our city. I'll go across the box score, and we'll give some kudos to Donovan Mitchell, 11 for 20 with 32 points in 31 minutes. We can't let these guys get going. We have to try and contain them. That they were talking about how Donovan in the first half, he's not really trying so hard. He's feeling the energy of the game. And then after halftime, he comes back in the third quarter, analyzed it, and that's when he starts to do his work in the second half. So we need to understand that pattern with Mitchell, and we need to try and do a better job containing him. In some ways, there was times where we were really good at denying him the ball, just like they were doing to Brandon. But there were other times where it's like everything collapsed and things were just wide open, and boom, there's easy dunks and layups for the Caps. So that level of stout defense, and we had that defense really good for a good chunk of the first half, where we were really playing good defense on them, stymieing them, working hard, playing them straight up, really limiting their good shots by making them work late into the shot clock and taking a shot that they didn't really want to take. We had all that in the first half for a lot of the first half. It's just that we've got to extend that time to the full 48. We cannot be erratic. We have to have a quality to how we play, and we have to stand up for it for every single second that clock is going. We have to. That's just the way we have to do it. James Harden was not that efficient, but he was effective. 10 assists for him, 4 turnovers, 22 points on 8 of 18 shooting. I mean, he was definitely a problem. But Max Strus off the bench, 24 points in 24 minutes, shooting 4 for 6 from 3 and getting 8 for 10. That's a huge X factor right there. The fact that he scored so much, and we needed to absolutely contain him. He's probably the main reason why they won, honestly, as far as I'm concerned. He's the one who busted the game open in the third quarter and was that big, huge catalyst. Evan Mobley, a solid game with 17. Yeah, and that's pretty much most of the Cavs side of things there. The team stats are telling. Both teams shot pretty good. We shot 52%, which is not bad, but they shot better, and they got 10 more shot attempts than us. They did make 3 more three-pointers than us, and they shot 50% from 3. Yeah, that's definitely something that they're gonna watch today on tape and do some of the things for the adjustments is they've got to guard the 3 better. We've had issues at times where we go away from guarding the 3 as well as we should. And well, this is another one of these times where we got to rededicate ourselves to thinking about making them have a harder time making the outside shots. And that's just rotating better and keeping up with the coverage. There were really ingenious plays by Kenny Atkinson though to free up people like Keon Ellis and Donovan Mitchell to get really good wide open shots off of screens up high. So they did a good job. The Cavs did a good job in a lot of ways with what they were doing. The free throw line was annoying. We did get better as the game went on, but like I said, in the beginning, it didn't look good. There were like 7 missed free throws in the first quarter or second quarter, first half. And that's awful. That's awful right there. They ended up missing only 9 by the end of the game. So they only missed 2 free throws in the second half. But the 7 missed free throws in the in and at the time when they were, we would have been kept in pace with their score more if we had those points back, Brandon and Scotty. So I wish you guys had done a better job there. We did get out rebounded 33-27. That's annoying. It was much worse at halftime. And in the second half, Yak and a couple other people woke up and even got the rebounding totals a little bit more even. A little bit more even. Assist to turnover ratio was bad. We did get more assists than them, but we had 29 assists to 18 turnovers, and that's not a 2-to-1. That's bad. We're used to like a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 sometimes assist to turnover ratio, but this being this close, 29-18, that's no good. That's no good. And the turnovers have to stop. This is mandatory if we're going to beat the Cavs. Y'all can't be turning the ball over like this. Not at all. They did have 9 steals, which is annoying. Yeah, fast break points are scant and few and far between, but that's the playoffs. In some ways, some people would argue, well, why were we playing this style this whole time if this kind of style is not conducive in the playoffs? That's a good point in some ways. I mean, I'd like to think that the dogged defense and trying to just make them cough up stuff will work in the playoffs still. But it's not like the thing where we can get a nice run where we're going back and forth like over and over again. That's not playoff basketball in the NBA. That's just not going to happen where the tempo is just upbeat and going back and forth like this. No, it's more likely that you may get little chances at fast break points off of single turnovers here and there because you got a steal or a very good block, and all of a sudden you're off and running, and you get like an opportunity on fast break then. But it never will be the point where the pace of the game is so back and forth that it's become a full court kind of game. That's just not how the playoffs are, and especially in the Eastern Conference. And the thing is, even if we wanted to do that, there's a certain level of gatekeeping by the referees that doesn't allow you to just get out and run in a playoff situation. You can see there's a lot more stoppages. There's a lot more whistles. There were a lot of fouls in the first half. In fact, they were putting us on the down low in foul trouble with different people, and that was hurting us. I thought that, our top 9 guys in some ways they could weather it because we can just balance the fouls around each other. But it did affect things. It may have cut the teeth of Scotty on being aggressive a bit, getting 2 fouls so early in the first quarter. So, and I felt like they could have done a better job trying to get some of the Cavs in foul trouble. They could have done a little bit better job with that. Points in the paint, we got decimated, and that's an area we should try and beat them. In some ways, that's where we do need Yak to be more powerful and actually try and feed him and let him get a lot of easy shots inside. But it's not easy against 2 defensive centers like Allen and Mobley. So we're gonna have to figure this out. I'm very excited about the whole prospect of the Raptors coaching staff trying to come up with ideas and figuring out the adjustments and seeing how they work and seeing us play way better tomorrow. Way better tomorrow. Because I do feel like we're going to do way better tomorrow than we did yesterday. I really do. I have a lot of hope and things because I honestly do feel like we have a really good matchup with them, and there are things that we can do to beat them. But what manifested yesterday in some ways was playoff rookies and jitters versus guys that are like top level all-stars for like 10 years. There's a little bit of that right there in what happened. Yeah. So yeah, that's the box score, and I really do feel like the Raptors played a really good first half. One of the things that's annoying me is like in the first quarter, they should have had the lead at the end of the first quarter. I know some of this has to do with parlays and FanDuel and stuff like that. People bet on who's leading after the first quarter. And in some ways, the refs and the NBA may manipulate things so that money is not made in weird ways because of certain things. So sometimes I want the Raptors to treat every quarter as a fourth quarter and the end of the game. And if you're winning most of the first quarter, you need to close out that quarter with the lead at the end of the quarter because that's practicing for the fourth quarter and being able to close out a game and win. So I wish y'all would approach it this way and think about this mentally this way. And instead of allowing a team in the last minute or two of the quarter to scramble and make some points up and get the lead over you right at the end, you need to be practicing it like it's the fourth quarter and this is the end of the game because this kind of stuff matters. This is where you can get practice with a safety net where it's not the end all be all for the whole game, but cheat in your head and lie to yourself and say, no, this is the end of the game. We have to be winning when that 0-0 happens at the end of the first quarter and treat every one of the quarters like that. Seriously, don't just play where we're in the lead in this way. No, play to win each quarter. And then, well, the logic says if you win all the quarters, you win the game, right? That's what I'm saying right there. That's what I'm saying. All right, let me see what else you guys are saying in the chat after doing the box score right there. Yeah, let's see. Nameless is saying, I blame that on our stupid morning start. Give us a normal start time and we're going to whoop their ass. These players are creatures of habit. Let Cleveland start preparing for the game at 11 a.m. in Toronto. Yeah, I mean, that is true. Both teams have to deal with the early start, but they are at home and we're on the road, and that does kind of make things a little different. I don't want to use that as an excuse because honestly, this is par for the course. They've always done this to us. In some ways, it'd be great if they could give us a regular, normal basketball start time like the Knicks or the Lakers later on in the evening. But fuck them for doing this to us every single time we get in the playoffs. And well, in some ways, we just got to understand that this is part of how this happens and be ready for it in the future. We got to understand this too. Not only were our players and some of their players in their first ever playoff game, so was our coach yesterday. Our coach was in his first ever playoff game too. Let's see what happens. Just another way they stack the deck against Toronto. Comma Crazy's here. Oh my gosh, they robbed Scotty in Toronto. Comma Crazy. Good to see you, Comma Crazy. It's been a long time since I've seen Comma Crazy in here. That's right. Let's see. There was one play where Tony Brothers definitely robbed us, and that was that out of bounds play on Brandon, where they said he stepped on the line, but he did not. There's definitive evidence. It's just a weird thing where his heel was up off the ground and it looked like it was hanging over. But Tony Brothers, from his angle, he thought that Brandon stepped out of bounds, but he didn't. He didn't. I thought the refs were overall pretty good. It's just that in some ways they were showing some of their proclivities to, glaze or help out James Harden. James Harden for sure was causing turnovers, and they were trying to cover up his turnovers. Like one of the challenges, the first challenge was, James just dribbled poorly and dribbled the ball out of bounds and nobody touched it, but they called out of bounds on us and we're going to give the ball to Cleveland. But then we went and looked at it and we're like, oh yeah, no, it's actually was out and nobody touched it and it's Raptors ball. They did that a couple times with James where they were giving him the benefit of the doubt for his reputation and his career instead of actually calling the play right. Because it's like, oh, it's James Harden. It's not a turnover. Well, actually, James is sloppy and he is causing turnovers. And you're bailing him out for not getting turnovers by calling fouls on the Raptors. That's bullshit. You shouldn't do that. So, but overall, Carl Lane, very, very fair ref. He was definitely calling stuff against the crowd in Cleveland and fair for the Raptors. Barnecki, mostly good too. And Tony Brothers, not totally bad, although he had some poor calls like that out of bounds call on Brandon Ingram. That was not a good call. And that actually really was a momentum changer because that was a moment where we were kind of starting to get things going in the second half to maybe eat up the gap a bit. But then that was such a late, weird whistle too. And Brandon was like, what the fuck, man? And Tony Brothers was like, out of bounds. I mean, it was dubious, and it was at the bottom of the screen for our viewing at home. And then I seen a picture of it later last night where he was obviously not out, and Tony totally fucked that call up. But alas, referees make mistakes. But that was a timely one that was really bad. That was a really bad one. Tony Brothers really good with the challenges. Cleveland calling a challenge early, and they were wrong, and he called it right. And then the two challenges by Toronto in the fourth quarter, both successful and called right. So I at least appreciate that. But I'm not blaming the refs, and honestly, I'm not gonna blame the start time like Nameless either. The Raptors have to play a high quality level of basketball the whole entire game if they want to win. And if they don't do that, that's the first thing we should point to. That's the first thing we should point to. Nameless is saying Scotty Barnes has to learn to manage his emotions. He'd be a terrible investor. Remove the emotion from the situation, man. You're nearly 30 years old. He's not nearly 30 years old. He's still he's still in his early 20s. He's not nearly 30 years old. Listen, Scotty is an emotional dude. In some ways, people have different human designs, and he may very much have a defined solar plexus. And that's part of why, right? If you're splenic, you're more intuitive and you're a little bit more non-emotional. But if you have your solar plexus center filled in your human design, you are an emotional person. I know it because I'm the same. And Scotty's got that. And he comes by it honestly. It's just about controlling it. I think Alvin Williams talked about it best on the broadcast. And when he described it when he was talking about it, it's like, look, Scotty, you can't do this at this point. You've got to understand you won't know how the refs are going to be. And you can't do this because if you take yourself out of the defensive play, you're going to give fast break opportunities to the other team because you're complaining about not getting the call. Now, this is the way it happens, Scott. The first couple times down the court, they will disrespect you, RJ, and Brandon. But if you guys keep fighting, if you don't complain, they might actually start calling it for you on the second or third time when it happens. It's just that you've got to do it this way. They were very looking out for Brandon for a while in the game with Tyson on him. How many fouls away from the ball fouls did they throw on Tyson just from him trying to arm wrestle and tie up Brandon? Because that's what he was trying to do. That was his whole role in this game, was slow down Brandon, don't let him go places, grab him, hold him, tie up his arms, do all this kind of stuff, frustrate him. That was what Jalen Tyson's job was. And Carl Lane and Tony Brothers did watch the action off ball. And if they saw Tyson being a little too physical with Brandon Ingram, they did call fouls on him. So I appreciate that. Sometimes that stuff goes unnoticed and uncalled. And so there was some of that looking out for that. And we did see RJ get some respect going to the basket and getting and ones yesterday too, which was good. So yeah, in some ways the refs were not totally good. They did make bad calls and they were kind of erratic. And there were a lot of touchy fouls for a while. But for the most part, I felt like it was a fairly ref game. I'll bet you even Cleveland fans would say some jackass shit like they were even helping y'all and you couldn't beat us. That's probably what they would say. They probably say they were helping you guys. The referees were helping you. All right, let's see. Chris comes saying tough L. Way better defense needed or it's over. Sucks that Scotty and Shed hit threes as one of their best performances and still lost comfortably. Yeah, I mean, in some ways we can't rely on those threes, but it's nice to have them when we do. They're gravy. They're gravy if we do get them. We can get threes and hit threes again. And we need the other guys to do it too, like AJ and Jameson and Sandro, and Brandon. We need these guys to hit threes too. But yeah, it's too bad that in some ways a good 3-point shooting game by Scotty and Jamal was squandered in an L. But we can't look at that. It's an overall body of work, whether you win or not. And to beat this Cavs team, we're going to have to be better than we were yesterday. That's just the truth. That's it right there. That's it right there. Nako's saying this. Shed played above his role. BI should be playing 40 minutes. BI should be playing 40 minutes. Well, we don't want to play guys just for the sake of having them hit minutes. There's one kind of critique of Darko that I kind of agree with that I think that we should do and he should be more cognizant of is I know that his rotation is set on a certain schedule and it has a certain way of going in and out with the players to keep them fresh and not have anybody out there for a really long time. Like some teams will play players the whole entire quarter. Maybe somebody like Jalen Brunson will play 44 of 48 minutes, shit like that. I don't always agree with this. I mean, there's a balance to it. There's a certain level of keeping guys fresh out there so they're getting after it. But if you have particular players that are like energizer bunnies and never ever wear down, and especially if they're players that are good offensively and they can get hot and get going, like sometimes he'll be playing RJ, and I know RJ gets tired and his style of play can be very wearing down because it's physical. But sometimes I get mad when he takes RJ out because RJ's going, right? RJ gets going, and he's actually the best offensive weapon we got. Like when he took him out after the work he was doing in the third quarter, I was kind of annoyed, but I'm also kind of like, well, RJ does get tired, and we need to keep things fresh. That's part of how we do things. With Brandon, it's the same kind of thing. You could say we should just play him 40 minutes, but honestly, if you look at his energy, Gerald, and the way he plays, do you think he warrants to get 40 minutes if he seems like he's not playing at a high energy all the time? That's the thing. We want the highest level of output for energy at all times from all five guys. And to do that correctly, Darko does need to do shift rotations where he is taking guys in and out, whether they're hot hand or not. But I wish there was some wiggle room on this. And maybe there's a couple of select players on our team, like RJ and Scotty, maybe Brandon, that if they're absolutely going hot hand, disregard your regular rotation shifts and just ride that hot hand. Just ride that hot hand. I don't know. In some ways, it's like Darko's team. He's going to coach it, but that's a tough balance to figure out what I just described. That's a tough balance right there. Yeah, let's see. Jimmy's saying, yeah, one attempt in the second half is unacceptable for BI. Darko's got to free him up. Well, in some ways, we can say it's some of the things we did. Sure, we could say that, but also at the same time, we got to say the scheme from the Cavs and the way they were doing things. They go to halftime and they do adjustments, and if they see things are working with stymieing Brandon, they'll double down on it. They'll go and say, yeah, you did this so well in the first half. Let's keep doing this. In fact, let's add this to it too and see if it gets even better for us. And I think there was a bit of that. Also, one thing I want to say, the wolf is out there again. Okay, maybe that's a coyote. Hey, buddy. Wow, it's big. Holy cow. One thing I would say though is, up to it, some of it's up to Brandon, y'all. In some ways, like I always say this, Scotty's. People are always saying Scotty should do this, Scotty should do that. Some of this is up to these guys with their Mamba mentality and them wanting to go do it. If they're just gonna wait for it to come to them, that's kind of not the right action. They need to want to go and do it and aggressively go and seek it out and take it. The very best players in the NBA's history did this. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Kawhi Leonard. That's the thing. No excuses, Brandon. Don't blame the coach. Don't blame your teammates. Don't blame the other team. If you're all that in a bag of chips, you go make anything happen anyway because you're just like that. That's what I'm saying. So, we can blame Darko using him as a screener. We can blame Jalen Tyson for tying him up. We can blame the teammates for not giving him better opportunities. But to an extent, it's also Brandon mentally, you need to fucking just be alpha and go take it and go do it. That's what I'm saying. Because I can see there's an area of where he could do better with this. And if he did, holy crap, he looked more like that game against Miami, that game that we saw where he looked more like Kobe. That's what I'm saying. He's got to do this, man. He's got to do this. Trevor's saying IQ will solve that problem for us. Man, if IQ shows up tomorrow, he will definitely be a bonus and a help to get us back on track in better ways, for sure. For sure. His absences this season have shown where he is a very valuable player for the Raptors. And I would say yesterday's one of them. And in some ways, to me, it's partly because I don't like graduating Shed to the starting lineup anymore. I really don't. I don't know if Jamal Shed will ever be a bona fide starting point guard in the NBA. I don't think this will ever. If he does do this and he proves me wrong, so be it. If you don't like me saying this, Jamal, go prove me wrong. But I don't think you're consistent enough or on the level in the right way to be this in some point. And in some ways, it's very good to be a good backup point guard in the NBA. That's a very high level player in basketball in this world. But in some ways, there's flaws. Like I said, there's certain things that are happening with the Shed that are pissing me off. And they're unnecessary flaws. There's shit that he could actually tidy up. And if he gets it fixed, he will become an even better NBA player. That's the thing, man. Because he does bug me. IQ, in some ways, has some of the stuff that we need Jamal to do better at. That's for sure. Smooth saying this. Reggie agrees with me. It's on Ingram, man. He's going to have to average 30 points. Yeah, he has to have the willingness to go above and beyond, run through a wall, basically. If the Cavs are going to defend you like this, they're going to be grabbing you. Well, people are doing this all year. In some ways, that's what's going to happen. I do like some of his shots and some of his actions and what he was doing, especially in the first quarter. But it went away as the game went on. It's like y'all can't just show up with that energy in the first quarter, go all out, Scotty and Brandon. You need to sustain it for all 4 quarters. And you can't do a Homer Simpson disappearing in the bush act kind of thing. You can't do that. You can't do that. Meanwhile, Donovan Mitchell's getting stronger as the game goes on. And that's not going to work. We won't win that way. Jimmy's saying IQ always got BI going. He was good at hitting him coming off the screen and in his spots. Yeah, and IQ's chaotic energy where he could just shoot a 3 at any time and do this or do that. Yeah, this is all really good stuff. This is all the kind of stuff that helps with floor spacing and changes pace and floor general stuff that we lack when IQ's not out there. IQ looks sad on the bench, not out there. I wish Dr. Alex had cleared him. I wish he could have been out there yesterday. Even if he gone out there and it hurt and he couldn't play any longer, just getting out there and having us set the tone at the beginning of the game and do some things can be very worthwhile, even if he's hurt and he really shouldn't play the full game. Maybe starting him and setting the table and opening up the court that way is a really good way to do things. I feel like that is something we need. Yeah. Yes. Reggie's saying Rockets pissed me off last night. It was too predictable. NBA needs Lakers to advance. Yeah. Luka and Austin being out is kind of throwing a curveball in their plans, but they're going to do what they're going to do. And well, I still believe the Lakers will fail and lose this series somehow, some way. Watch. If they're relying too heavy on DeAndre Ayton to be successful, they're in trouble. They are in trouble. Smith saying OG rolled his ankle last night. So in the game against the Hawks, in the first game, our OG Anunoby, he got hurt in the first game. That sucks. That sucks for OG. I'm not feeling bad for the Knicks, though. I feel bad for Anunoby, though. I always will feel bad for him individually. Jimmy's saying playoffs are where X's and O's shine. Got to have good play sets you can rely on each possession. Yeah. Yeah, and some of it is like fighting around those screens when you're defending them. We're really going to have to do that better because their 50% shooting was no good. And they definitely going to have to find Max Strus better in game 2 tomorrow. Definitely going to have to find him better for sure. For sure. G saying this, Cavs are $70 million over the luxury tax. They are a chip or bust. Raps will be peaking in a few years. Cavs will be aging out or rebuilding. For me, I just want to see fight and experience. Raptors are on their way up in the escalator, while Cavs need to get to the top or get off. Yeah, they're like at the top of the escalator, and they got to figure out if they're stepping off of it or they're a little sheepish, and they're kind of like, oh no, I'm scared. If I go up to this part, I'm going to go underneath where the steps go. Oh, I'm going to get pulled underneath. I don't know. We'll have to see. But it's true. They're up near the top. And when you get that close to up there, if it doesn't work and you don't actually get the Larry, well, then there's some tough questions that got to be answered. And usually that means changes. Yeah. I like that G's got this perspective. Once again, we're a successful team this year, no matter what happens. Yesterday was promising. It was not success, but it was promising. That's the way I'd like to describe it yesterday. Yeah. Let's see. Medved Ted's here. Good morning, Medved Ted. Bad on defense, didn't make stops and couldn't push in transition. Cavs were great on defense. They made sure to sprint back and set up. We need to be locked in on defense, and our offense will follow. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to tell you yesterday, this may not be realistic. I mean, to rely on fast break or transition kind of play in the NBA playoffs is just not something that is kind of like conducive for it. I mean, sure, if we can get an individual steal here and there and get a run back dunk, that's fantastic. But to think that this is going to be a regular pace for a playoff game is just not going to happen. And we're going to have to really, really get better as a half court offense because this is the way the playoffs are. I mean, I ideally would love to run back and up and down the court, but that's one of the things that Alvin was saying is in the playoffs, teams are not being lazy and not getting back. They're very much on it, and they're doing the things like the Cavs did last night to cut off the opportunities. So, in some ways, the Raptors have to show a diversity of talent. And in some ways, their bread and butter, the transition game may not be there for them to rely on. And they're going to have to show that they're talented enough to beat them in other ways. Because I would love for them to get like 20 fast break points. But is that going to happen in these playoffs? Probably not, unless the opponent is really a pushover. It's going to be really, really difficult to manufacture our normal fast break full court stuff. And we're going to have to get used to operating in half court play sets. And we got to do better. We got to do better. Good to see you, Medved Ted. Jimmy's saying, and the amount of holding and grabbing on BI was sus. And Harden is 36. Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot. They had a lot of attention on him. And then it was frustrating for Brandon. And well, we're going to have to be creative is what it's going to have to be. Yeah. Bam, son. Okay. Bam, son. Jimmy's saying, and another thing that kind of worried me was BI said they knew all the stuff they've been running all year, and we just run in regular season plays. You know, I also like to think this, like sometimes when you come into a first game of the series, it's a feeling out part. It's kind of like do what you've been doing, and we'll build from there to adjustments to try and change things. You know, that is a theme that we said all week is we got to continue to be ourselves and do what we've done well all year. And yeah, the other team knows what we've done all year. They have a scheme for it and stuff like that. I know some of y'all said in the Discord you felt like Darko got out coached yesterday. And maybe that's true to an extent. But I think that because it's a series and it's a lot of games involved, well, this is where we find out more about our coach and how he does against Kenny Atkinson with adjustment game and the chess match that it becomes with that. And I still have faith in our guys as far as their IQ levels and their basketball stuff that they know that we're going to do well and we're going to be good with making adjustments and implementing them and executing them. It's just that, we got the first taste, we got the jitters, we got the ability to kind of understand this is what it's going to be, y'all. And now we got to see how we go from here. But once again, look, we could lose tomorrow and be down 0-2, and that's still Cleveland holding serve. It's when we lose at home, if that happens, where we start getting worried. The series, they always say a playoff series doesn't start until a home team loses, until somebody wins on the road. And then that series starts then. That's when that series starts. Yeah. Let's see. G saying experience is an X factor come playoffs times, in my opinion. Yeah. I was hoping that we could have some naturals, some savants, some guys that are kind of just already pre-equipped to come into the playoffs and be very, very good. And that was true to an extent with people like Murray-Boyles and Shed, but Shed's not totally perfect. And there was a lot of good things he did, but there were bad things he did. And Jacoby just needs to magnify himself a little bit. In some ways, he had good beginning stuff for his first playoff game, but he could magnify himself and be a little bit more bigger in his role and doing the things that he does. That's it right there. Yeah. Medved Ted saying, I still think we can score in transition in playoffs. Yes, the pace is slower to favor the Cavs half court. It doesn't necessarily favor them or us. It's just that it's a half court game. But we need to lock in on D to make stops, force turnovers to create fast break opportunities. Yeah, I mean, I hope that this can happen. But I'm just saying from like my experience from watching the NBA since the 80s, the NBA playoffs have always been a slog. They've never ever been like this crazy up and down the court kind of game where it gets kind of willy-nilly. It's always like more clamped down, more precision, more intensity, and that slows the game down in all the aspects. Maybe there's some high scoring games in the West where people are getting out and running a bit because both teams are deciding that and the refs are allowing it. But Eastern Conference style of basketball has always been very half court, defensive oriented, not allowing a lot of up and down the court kind of stuff. It's just the history of the NBA. And it's not necessarily pertaining to any specific team. It's just that this is what happens when this time of the year comes. Is that you can't rely on your fast break. You can't rely on full court game because in some ways to derive it and get it. It's kind of like finding a mushroom in your yard. You just kind of were lucky you got it at that time, and you don't have any control whether you can control whether it's going to pop up or not and be there for you. So in some ways, it's not smart for us to game plan that we're going to rely on fast break or full court kind of offense. It's not smart because in some ways we don't have control over whether that's available to us. In some ways, that's up to Tony Brothers whether we're going to be able to run or not. And we don't want to be at the mercy for the refs to be able to get that. Sure, if we get a hand in there, Jacoby gets a little steal, we can run the ball back a few times. That is a good sign. And they did a good job from stopping us from that. But that can't be one of our primary strategies to win the series because it's just not going to be there. I'm just saying this. It's just it's like I've used the term governor before. A governor can be used on an engine of a go-kart to stop it from going a certain speed. And the referees govern the game. They cover up and they slow down the game on purpose with more foul calls, more reviews. I mean, they slow down the fast break just by holding the ball at the sideline and then handing it to the guy to give it in. They don't want anybody sometimes to run up and down the court. They can limit whether a team can run. And it's as simple as like, all right, Scotty, I know you want this ball, but I'm gonna hold this ball for an extra 3, 4, 5 seconds. Okay, the Cleveland Cavaliers defense is back. Here you go, Scotty. You can inbounds it now. There's a lot of this kind of manipulation and holding the pace of the game back by the officials. That is just a part of in this. It's very intensified in the playoffs. This kind of stuff. So, all right, let me see. Where am I in my chat? I lost my place. Let me make sure I don't miss any comments. G saying the least experienced teams lost: Wolves, Rockets, Hawks, and Raptors. Playoffs are a different beast. That's why I think Pistons and Spurs won't have it as easy as some think. Well, we'll just have to see. And hopefully, because Alvin was talking about the Thunder and how often they've gotten and how they did what they did last year. They weren't the most experienced team last year. They had only been a few times in the playoffs, and, well, they went all the way and won it. So there are exceptions to the rule. There are exceptions. It took our chip team years and years of heartbreak, playoff experience, losses, some tweaking, and a big trade to win it all. This is true. And that path and that schedule may be this way again, but we'll have to see. Maybe not. Maybe we can skip a couple steps because we have really good talent, and these guys will do it that way. We'll have to see. Jimmy's saying, I like the CMB change, but I feel he's too small. In some ways, in some ways, I'm not totally for it, but I'm open to the idea of it. And especially if it'll get people kind of off of Pirtle's back as far as being mad at him and just kind of talking trash about him. Like, in some ways, I'd just like us to be successful, because if we all can be successful, it'll be good. And Yacht can help us any kind of way, even if he's not starting. He can help us off the bench too and be a very helpful player. In fact, maybe some of the pressure's off him. But the trade-off is that, like, in some ways, he has to establish a rim protection, a paint protection. And he failed at that yesterday because he lost Allen, and Allen started rolling off and getting these monster dunks right away. So in some ways, the adjustment needs to be made that, all right, look, Yak, if you're going to start, one of the big things that you're supposed to do is establish that you're going to rebound, get all the rebounds for us, and you're going to protect the paint. And, well, if you're not protecting the paint, well, quick hook, Colin Murray-Boyles is coming in. Either that or you try starting Colin. G's saying this. Shed, Walter, and Colin are sophomores and a rookie. This is so valuable for them. I thought that they did great. They didn't look shell shocked. They didn't look totally like, oh my gosh, this is over our heads. They looked fine for the most part. I've gone over my criticisms for Shed, and I think that Jacoby could just be bigger. I think Colin was very, very good. Colin was right on point with a lot of stuff, especially with his finishing, with the physicality and defense around him near the basket. He was still able to do that kind of stuff at the playoff level, which is good. G saying this, we are not the 2019 team yet, but let's remember they lost their first game. The Magic lost the Bucks by 30, and we're down 0-2 in the series. Let's see how they adjust and fight. The true test of character. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I do feel like Raptors Nation is adjusting to the loss yesterday in the right way, and they have the right attitude. And I still feel like we can beat the Cavs in this opening round. I don't feel like this is a doomsday game. I don't feel like this was a game where I'm like, a lot of people are saying, oh, they're going to sweep, oh, this other bullshit. No, I didn't feel that. In fact, the vibes I got from the first half is we're going to beat them in this series. It's the vibes I got. It's just that the young guys have to understand what it takes to execute, to win at this level. And Scotty, his whole career in the NBA has been learning what it takes to win tough games in the NBA. It's hard to win the NBA, and he's learned more about how to win the regular season. Well, there is a learning curve to learning how to win in the postseason too. And in some ways, he's going to have to learn, wow, actually, this is even a whole other level of exertion and physicality and me going all out, me being aggressive, me trying to do this to help them is what it's going to take for us to collect W's in the postseason and be like this. So in some ways, that's part of it too. As much as they're getting their first chance in the playoffs, or the young guys, Scotty's getting his first chance as a franchise face and a main guy in the playoffs, and he has to understand what it takes to win at this level, and that sometimes takes failure for a bit. It does, yeah. Jimmy's saying this. I just feel like Yak is caught in no man's land. He doesn't know who to seal off, and it gives Allen space. Just choke off Allen, even if it gives more space for Harden. Scott's able to put in an extra gear to help Yak cover space. Yeah. Yeah, I like this. I mean, it's true. He did get caught in no man's land, and that looked bad because it's like, okay, you're kind of hedging to cover the guards possibly on a double, but there's Allen in the back door, and you just, conveniently forget about him. This has been an issue on the down low that's been used against us all season that's been annoying me. Is there's been teams getting success in pick and roll kind of things where we lose the big and there's all of a sudden easy dunks because we're over doubling or trapping in our defense. It's annoying. Darko was funny in the interview. One of the interviews this week, he was going on about how that period of time in the middle of the season where all teams were playing zone against us and we were struggling. Remember that? We were like annoyed because teams are playing zone against us and we don't know how to beat the zone and all this stuff. And we did figure it out. We got better at it. And they did it to us last year too, when we still had Chris Boucher on our team, I remember. But yeah, Darko talking about it, he's saying, I really enjoyed that period of time where teams that even use a zone were using a zone against us because that was the most effective thing. I felt like that was a really good learning experience for our team. And I was enjoying that whole period of time. I was like, this is crazy, man. What? We struggled against the zone. We weren't doing so well against it. But he looked at it as a learning opportunity for our team, and we got better because of it. So I like that. I like that in some ways. That's right. G saying some fans are still blaming RJ, claiming defense, even though he outscored Harden. Yeah, I mean, RJ's playing tough defense. Emmanuel said it on Friday that his improvement on defense this year has been immense. And Emmanuel had that little cute thing about saying when RJ goes right, watch, he'll look at me. He said that before. I remember that. But that's the thing. Once again, the scouting reports on the Raptors by some fans that don't want to pay attention to us are we're still an expansion dinosaur team. Well, the scouting report on RJ with the last place where a lot of people stopped caring about getting updates is he's a toxic asset. He can't play defense. And he's not worth having on your team for his contract. That's what a lot of people are still operating under the assumption of RJ because they didn't pay attention to him once he got in a Raptors jersey, and they don't want to listen. No, they don't want to hear that. Actually, yes, he's playing more efficient than ever. He's not a shot chucker. He's making a high percentage of his shots. Go look at his field goal percentage. And his defense has gotten better. His defense isn't top notch still, but he's working way harder and he's improved immensely on defense. And you could ask a teammate of his that's been next to him for 6 years, like Emmanuel Quickly. You can ask players on the team around him that have played with him while he's been on the Raptors. Is he a better defender since he showed up from New York? Yeah, he absolutely is. But these people aren't getting the updated cliff notes and information because they don't pay attention to us the way we pay attention to the Raptors. So they are not up to date that RJ has improved as a defender and he's playing better. And once again, there's a lot of Raptors fans that take all their information from Bleacher Report and ESPN and NBA media in the States, and the reputation of RJ is absolutely not right at this point. You know, it's just like why somebody like a stunted growth did a piece that he says that RJ's hit his ceiling. He's not going to get any better. That's absolute horse shit because there's a whole thing that they look at him through a lens that's not fair. It's not fair. And the whole toxic asset label is still hanging around RJ unfairly right now, as far as I'm concerned. And even Raptors fans believe this, and they're all believing this about next year. And I don't believe this. I don't think this is what's going to happen. They think because his contract's similar to Oshai's this year, that he's going to be traded next year by the trade deadline because his contract and extension work and stuff like that won't work with us. Or they still buy this whole toxic asset. He's not worth his contract kind of shit. Yeah, I don't buy any of that. And I think Bobby's smarter than all this. And he understands what's going on here. And that synergy between Barrett and Barnes should not be thrown away, is what I'm saying, Raptors fans. So, you know, if Keith Pelly and Ed Rogers are willing to invest in superstars on our team, they should be extending RJ and he should be staying on our team past next season. You know, some people will hear me say that and they'll get really mad and say, what the fuck, all that? No, he's a good player for us. And in the third quarter last night, we saw when nobody else is doing anything, he's the one bailing the water out of the sinking ship and kicking some ass and trying to get us back on track. So, you know, some of it is a little bit more than just number crunching and analytics, y'all. Some of it has to do with heart and intangibles. And some of it has to do with going above and beyond in certain ways. And that's what I say for RJ Barrett right now. Yeah. Kareem saying this, Yak has to do the honorable thing and admit he's not 1,000% because Darko, what is 1,000%? Because Darko doesn't want to pull him from the starting lineup and fracture the relationship. I don't think that's what it is. If Jakob got asked to not start, it wouldn't hurt himself. He wouldn't be upset about that. He's not like this kind of guy. Seriously. In some ways, he's like RJ and a lot of the team. They want to do whatever it takes for the team, even if it's a sacrifice with themselves. So that's the way this team is built and their mentality. And if Darko asked Yak not to start tomorrow, that would not affect him in the way you think you're described here. That would not affect him this way. Reggie saying Shed's turnover right before halftime turned the momentum big time. Yeah, because we were right near the end of the half and we had the ability to take the lead at halftime, but he turned the ball over and they ran it back and got an easy score. And that's the thing. Shed, you're a point guard. You have a huge responsibility, and that is to protect the ball. And if you need to go to classes with the basketball and sit in class and let other people try and steal from you, just like a high school kid did to keep the basketball safe, and you're dribbling in the court on the way to class and everything, you got to keep it safe. Nobody can take it from you. Do whatever you can. Hold on that ball all day. Do whatever you got to do to protect the ball and try and limit your turnovers. Because as Darko said, your rookie year, you can't afford to have any turnovers, Jamal Shed. And when your turnovers happen, they really hurt our team. They really do. They're momentum things, like Smooth saying. Let's see. G saying Yak is not 100%. It's obvious. The issue is the Cavs have two very tall players. So without him, Colin alone cannot guard both of them. I would like to see Yak be more aggressive looking to score. Well, this was a question that Lewinberg brought up to Darko, and he answered it very bluntly. It's like he said, Darko, do you think that you should put Scotty on James Harden to slow him down? And Darko got kind of mad at him for asking that question. He said, look, the Cavs are a deep team. It's not just James Harden, Donovan Mitchell. You got to think about Evan Mobley. And Scotty is a much better defender on the inside. And we've got guys that can go and try and lock up Harden and Mitchell. There may be a time at some point in this series where Scotty gets switched to try and stop those guys. Hopefully it doesn't happen, because that means that they're really, really so bad that we really need to do that. But that's the thing. Like, if Scotty's playing half-ass between the backcourt and the front court with defense, he can't fully support Yak down low with guarding the paint against Mobley and Allen. It's like he can't be one or the other. And Darko made it very clear he's given the job of Mobley to Scotty. That making a switch of having Barnes guard Harden is not ideal for us, because we need the size and strength down low to hold off Mobley and Allen. And that if you got Scotty down low working more as a tag team with Yak down near there, maybe Yak is more effective because Scotty's not roaming as much and all over up and near the 3-point line trying to help the guards with stuff out there, when he should be kind of helping with rebounds and paint protection for Yak. He made it very clear. In fact, he was kind of annoyed with Josh for suggesting it. I mean, he alluded that he'll make the changes and adjustments a long series and different looks will be seen. But to think that he's just going to dedicate Scotty to guard James Harden, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen, because he needs them against the bigs. Yeah. Let's see. Fiercey saying this. Good morning, fam. I agree with Jimmy Pope's take in reference to Yak's utilization. There needs to be adjustments made for the upcoming games. And there will be. That's what the playoffs are. There are going to be adjustments. And Darko did make it clear yesterday after the game that he is willing to change the lineup if he needs to. And he will change people in and out of the starting lineup. And, we'll just have to see what decisions he makes. Part of this is judging whether Darko's doing a good job coaching the playoffs, is seeing if he makes the adjustments. Kareem saying this, not trying to be funny, but RJ was getting crossed like crazy from Mitchell and Harden. He was on skates, but you can see his effort was there and made up for it offensively. Is there a timeline for quickly? Yeah, I didn't see that. I mean, if anybody was looking actively to see that RJ was getting messed up by those guys, I mean, come on, man. James Harden is such a high-level scorer. There's some of the shit that he did and some of the shots he made, we guarded him perfectly, and he just made the shots. This is similar to what happened in that Phoenix game near the end of the season with Devin Booker. You guarded him exactly right. It's just he made that shot, just like that three-pointer Jaylen Brown made in the corner when we played the Celtics the last time in the season. Scotty guarded him perfectly. And it's not like RJ's getting his ass beat in any kind of way. You can look at what happened with AJ in that one play with Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell hit him, offensive foul, and AJ fell down. If the ref didn't call that, Carl Lane looking out, it could have easily just been, superstar a call. He hit him, and he did a dirty play, which is an offensive foul, which was the right call, and they did make the call. But that could have easily been Donovan Mitchell's just clearing out because he's a high-level player and an all-star, and he can hit a guy who played in the G League this year on his butt, and even the Cavs fans would say, he broke his ankles or he made him fall down, and now he's going to hit a three. No, Carl Lane saw the contact, and he called the offensive foul on Donovan Mitchell. And that was against a G League two-way. So, listen, Mitchell and Harden are very high level, and they burn everybody in the league. And it's not even about whether RJ's a good defender or not. They're going to beat a good defender or a bad defender. And you can't really gauge whether RJ's playing bad defense against them because they're just that top tier kind of stuff. There were some shots that James made that were absolutely high level and were guarded perfectly, and he still made it. So we got to understand that there's going to be a certain level of that kind of output by them that you can't do anything about. So you just got to try and stop them and make it hard for them as much as possible and hope the outcome is they're going to miss more than they make. So, because, there's a lot of, I wouldn't even describe it like that. I didn't see this with RJ. There were all kinds of different people getting beat on defense on both sides. Brandon was beating their guys too. And we had guys that were getting beat by some of their high-level guys too. So that's just how it is. Uji Bougie's here. Let's see. Weird vibes. Started off aggressive. Ticky-tack fouls for the home team first half. No quick slowed the offense. Yak looking slow overall, and Scotty yapping too much at the refs after foul trouble. This isn't a bad synopsis. In some ways, this is pretty accurate. I'll go with the stuff. Scotty got out of his game mentally for a little bit there for a second, and he wasn't right for the rest of the game after that. So he can't do this. You got to understand, man. You got to work it to your advantage. You know, get on the right side of Tony Brothers, and hopefully he'll look out for you, Scott. But the other thing is, like we've said, Brandon and Scotty have to be aggressive to go look for their stuff. The refs are not going to reward you with free throws and stuff. Or you're doing things lackadaisical or lazy or waiting for it to come to you. You need to fucking go and take it to them, and then the refs will reward you better. That's the thing. That aggression that Uji Buji's saying that was evident in the first quarter went away after the first quarter. And that's part of it right there. That's part of it right there. And it's not the fouls necessarily. It's just that the guys stopped going and they stopped getting that urgency. Urgency is a key word for the Raptors. It's a very important word for them. We really need IQ. This is what Fiercey's saying. Yeah, it'll be nice to have him back. Hopefully he plays tomorrow. G saying, would anyone want to see Scotty at the 5 when IQ comes back? This way Yak can come off the bench and we still maintain the height and rim protection. Well, yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. I mean, if you start calling instead, Scotty is the 5. It's not every time everybody says Colin's playing small ball 5. I'm like, bullshit. If he's out there with Scotty or Mamu or anybody, he's still the 4. Every time they tried to say he's the 5, I was like, that's bullshit. Scotty reverts to 5. If he's the biggest guy on the court, he's the 5. He's the 5. He can be out there with Mamu and he plays 4. He can be out there with Yak and he plays 4. But if he's out there with Colin, he's the 5. It's not Colin that's a 5. In some ways, Colin is rarely ever the 5. And they try to call him a small ball center. In some ways, that's bullshit. That's horse shit to me. So, yeah, definitely. That's why I was saying it could work with Colin starting because then Scotty is the 5 and he's playing. And it doesn't matter if Colin or Scotty are guarding Allen or Mobley. They're interchangeable. But to me, classically, I always look at the biggest guy on the court as the center. And them calling the center all the time was like, that didn't make any sense to me all season. It really didn't. But that's just maybe just the way I look at it, right? That's what it looks like to me. Nako's saying Colin should probably start rest of the series. Well, we can't say that for the whole series. You know, it could be something they try out. But you never make yourself like in stone for like he should for the whole series. No, don't say shit like that, Gerald. Maybe he tries it for one game, and if it works, he continues to do it. If it doesn't, you don't do it anymore, and you go back to the other lineup. So you can't just say that. You can't just say that way. Jimmy's saying this: they better try changing defensive looks. Otherwise, I might not be so kind to the coaching staff. If they make it and it doesn't work, that's okay, but they better try something. Yeah, they're going to do something. I have faith in them, man. I think we're going to have a bounce back. I think we're going to win game 2, and that's the mission accomplished for the 2 games in Cleveland. We just want one. We didn't get the first one. We get the opportunity to try and steal the second one, and then they're still in trouble. So we got to remember how these all work, 7-game series in the playoffs, and how to look at it and how to really think. They held serve. They were supposed to win yesterday. It's their home court. They were supposed to win. And, well, we beat them tomorrow. Well, that was a game they were supposed to win too, but they didn't. And that can make things crash out for them real easy. I love that the Raptors didn't just give up when they got down by 20 in the second half. You know, it's a 7-game series. And to roll over and just give up in the middle of the game like that is horrible energy for feeding into the next game. So I really commend Darko for making them continue to play at a high level and get after it. In fact, we saw Scott get more determination at that point. We saw RJ get more determination. We saw Jakob get more determination at certain points in the second half. And in some ways we showed excellence and we even closed the gap a bit to only lose by 13. So that's important. Because look, you can act like, oh, we've lost. Let's just lay down and just lose. No, you can't. You in this kind of situation in the playoffs, you've got to fight every second right until the final buzzer. And just like because in some ways you're setting up energy in certain ways for the next game if you don't do that. And if they had just rolled over and given up and defeated, man, they might as well get swept. if they did that. So kudos to Darko and kudos to the players for keeping up and competing, even when it was kind of evident they were going to lose the game. It was, that was important. That was important. Let's see. Fiercely saying, I suspect a big game, number 2. They need to win it and recalibrate their mindset. Losing it may negatively impact their mental toughness and how we will play games 3 and 4. Not necessarily. I mean, once again, I just said it. The home team is supposed to hold serve. This is the playoffs. This is how it always is. It's expected for home teams to win their games at home. It's when a team steals one on the road when, whoa, things get real interesting. And that's the thing. They have to hold serve. They have to try and win their game again tomorrow, the Cavs. Now, if we bust that up and win the game on their home court, well, we have the home court advantage all of a sudden. And the series gets flipped. So, yeah, we could lose tomorrow and we're fine still. It's just that we would love to win one of these games in Cleveland because it'll really flip the script and set the tone for the series in a different way. So it's not the end of the world if we lose tomorrow either, Fiercey, just so you know. We know this from our history and our time in the playoffs over the years. We know this. Cream saying this, we can't blame Darko. Atkinson has good shooters, 2 huge centers, and 2 Hall of Famers. It's hard to outcoach the opposing team when they have players at their disposal. At what point do we just shrink our rotation to 7 and let our best players gas it out until the engine hits empty? See, I'll agree with some of how you're saying this, but I won't totally. Because I'm going to say this right now. With all those advantages that you just said, or all those things you said, we still have their number. We swept them in the regular season. And in the first half of the game, if we play ethically right and we play to our highest level, we beat them. I'm sorry, Kareem. We beat them because we're the better team and we can play better than them. It's just we have to be better. We can't have fuck ups. We can't have inconsistency. We can't be the Raptors that are on the needle of being successful or not. Whoa, we're so good. Whoa, we're not playing as well. We can't do that. We can't do that. We have to have the very good play all 48 minutes. And that's the difference right there. We're a better team than them. We are a better team than them. If we're playing optimally and we're playing right, we kick their ass. We sweep them. It's just the experience factor and also the inconsistency factor of the Raptors. If we are our best level, we absolutely mop the floor with them. And I felt that energy in the first half. I felt good at the beginning of the game. I was crying. I was so happy to be back in the playoffs. I was like, man, I'm emotional, man. The Raptors are back in the playoffs. This is emotional for me. And I really got hyped up. And I was listening to the broadcast, and I had Rush playing in the background too on the download, getting those Canadian vibes up as the Raptors were starting the game. And yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. In some ways, they do need to learn the experience of it and being green and not having as much experience as James and Donovan. But honestly, in a vacuum, if you really look at everything and the matchups, the Raptors beat the Cavs. The energy was there in the first half. It's just that we have to be consistent and we have to play ethically at a high level. That's what it is right there. Those things, they can have all those things, and we're still better than them. We're still better than them. Jimmy saying this, coaching is huge in the playoffs. Not like we were blown out in the first. We showed we have what it takes. They adjusted and we didn't. Yeah, that's kind of what I was just saying. I would agree if the game was done in the first, but we had the lead for most of the first. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's like that the underlying feeling of kind of the flow of the game and kind of the vibes of it. We can beat them in this series. We can. We absolutely can. And that whole first quarter and first half made me feel like that. It's just that they busted it open. And with a young team that doesn't know how to react or respond, you don't know how to get back into it in the playoffs. And especially in the Eastern Conference slog, every point is important. A 20-point lead in the regular season can be made up easier than in the playoffs. And that's the thing. That's why every possession, every free throw, everything matters so much, because a 10-point lead is like a 20-point lead in the playoffs. And, that's the thing that these young guys are learning in the learning curve, is that kind of stuff. So in some ways, it's like, wow, there's the talent is there. We're just so young and so green that we are in a new place. And in some ways, that is a hindrance for us. That is a hindrance in some ways, for sure. Yeah, let's see. Bryce is here. Good morning to Bryce. Good morning, Lex and Raptor Freak family. We started off well, but Yak got exposed very early. I believe in Yak, but they have players that are skilled enough to just float in over him for a lob or floater. I still believe. Yeah, they're going to have to adjust to that. And this is something like you guys were just saying in the last couple comments that the coaches need to show their mettle and ingenuity and creativity to solve this issue. And I think that you're right on that. Scotty, really, it irritates me when he cries, man. Just play ball, man, please. Yeah. He's got to continue to break that habit more and more. He's done better this year. He's had progress in this department over this last season, and he's really shown growth. But in the playoffs, it's a new level. And well, he let some of the old bad habits of getting out of the game emotionally get to him again yesterday. And it really was kind of a turning point with him personally in the game and what he's doing. Although he did have that rise up in the second half where he was like all of a sudden like, I'm aggressive, I'm going to come and throw it down over you guys. Like, I love that one play where he's standing at the elbow next to the free throw line and he's got the ball and he's always looking for a pass. But I love it when he fakes that he's going to pass to somebody and he just puts the ball on the floor and he drives. I love that shit. I wish he would do that more often. In some ways, they're so used to him passing and they're trying to play for the passing. But he needs to be cognizant of when he can go right to the basket and just dunk it on their heads. And when he does those moves, I want to just see more of this shit. Seriously. So, Scotty, maybe an area this offseason that you could work on with Brian Macon is more of the kind of pass fakes into your own action of aggressive drives to the hoop and figure out those different ways. Like in some ways, it's like what happened with you and Mobley when you were down low and he was guarding you in the post and you were able to post him up and score over him is when you kind of feel as Alvin put it, the defense relax a little bit. Then you make your move and you go and dunk it on their head. You know, this is stuff like you're learning all about getting your other teammates involved and passing to them. But in some ways, you need to save some stuff for you as far as like reading the defender on you and manipulating the situation when they shift their weight or how they guard you and recognizing it and then taking that first step and quick first step. And then boom, all of a sudden you're scoring for yourself on a drive and going to the hoop. I want to see more of this cultivated and figured out in the next few years of your career, because this will make you more like Antetokounmpo. If you can do this, you need to be more like Giannis for that. Seriously. Because I can see that. Trevor's saying Raptors isn't the only team that gets early playoff start games. Well, they were yesterday with Cleveland, and they're going to do it today to somebody else too. Today, of course, 1 o'clock will be a game start for one of the games today. I'm not even sure which one. Maybe I should go look. Who's playing first today? Who got that unlikely? Philly and Boston are going to play their first game at 1 o'clock today. Yeah, but still, it's annoying because we're consistently there. Like, it's one thing. Like, when have we ever had, like, on a Saturday, a 7 p.m. start in our first game of the playoffs? We always start at noon or 1. You know that's true, Trevor. You know that's true. They always put us in the first game of the playoffs. They usually always do that. Jimmy's saying this. I agree, Lex. But if opposing coaching staff is choking off one of your star players, you got to find ways to get him going. Regardless of everything, it is their job. Otherwise, what's the point of coaches? Yeah. I mean, I think that the things with Brandon and him only getting 9 shot attempts is really a lot of things collecting to get to that outcome. It's not as simple as there's one thing that led to this. There's probably like 4 things that led to the reason why Brandon only got 9 shot attempts. And one of them's Brandon, one of them's our coaches, one of them's his teammates, and one of them is the defense that Kenny Atkinson put on him. So I think that you can point 4 fingers of blame at 4 different things. You know, Brandon be more aggressive, Darko give him a better scheme they can be successful in. Teammates look out for him more and come and get him and help him. And then, Kenny Atkinson had a plan and they executed it and held him back too. That's what gets you 9 shot attempts. Right there. G saying 2004 NBA Finals, Game 3 versus the Detroit Pistons. Kobe had 11 points, 4 for 13 shooting, 30%, 0 for 4 from 3, 4 turnovers. Kobe mentally can come the next game too. Let's get it, Raptors. Kobe mentality can come. Yeah, that's pretty early in Kobe's career too, to a degree, if you really think about it. And maybe that was one of those stair steps early that kind of was like, okay. Although they won a championship before that, right? They won a championship before that with Shaq. But still, Kobe's pretty young when he won championships right away. So, there's going to be learning games for Kobe Bryant even too, right? Them allowing Ingram to be grabbed is exactly hang on, it skipped ahead. Is exactly why players become floppers. They reward flopping, but not the actual grabbing if the player just plays on. The league is encouraging flopping. That's interesting. So it's kind of like a tanking thing. Tanking and flopping are on the down low encouraged by the NBA because of the way things are in the system. That's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah, I could see this. Kareem saying, when Harden is in, I say we full court press him. This way, he doesn't have so much time to set up the pick and rolls. We need to keep a strength until we know we can't do it. I don't care for getting steals. I care about draining the shot clock to stop them from getting set up. That's a way we can indirectly speed up the game. Also, BI was cooking in the first half. If I was him, I'm waving off the sub. I guess that's the Mamba mentality. I don't think he has the authority to wave off being subbed out. And honestly, he probably needs those rest times when they do it. Remember, we're doing this with sports science and Dr. Alex, and we've had the most successful health outcome for Brandon in his career this year. So, I mean, I can't get behind him waving off a sub if a sub's coming. Only if he's like insanely hot, and at that point, Dargo's probably not taking him out, right? There's no point where Brandon is so important that he can just wave off a sub. I don't see that. I don't see that, especially if they're making it hard for him to score. So I like your idea about making them work the shot clock, and I feel like we did that very well a lot of times in the game. There was a lot of covering up and very top-notch team defense by the Raptors where we made the Cavs go deep in the shot clock and settle for a bad shot. We that did get stops that way, and it was successful at times doing that. We need to build that and have more of that for sure. For sure. Slug Deezy's in the house, the king of the classic card. This team cannot afford to be missing any key players or they have trouble functioning. IQ missing was a death blow. We need our full rotation healthy to have a shot at winning. I mean, I'll disagree with this to a degree. I mean, next man up, do what you can with who you have. But yeah, not having IQ would have helped for sure. For sure. I mean, Leo used to say this all the time that the Raptors aren't talented enough overall. If they have anybody missing, they are not going to be able to beat some of the top teams in the league. And that may be true to an extent still. But I think that we do have a wealth of talent to a degree where I would like to think that if we're missing one starter, we should be okay. We should be okay, even if we're missing just one starter. You have two, that's a little bit too much. Cool Cat's here. Good morning to Cool Cat. Good morning, Raptor Freak family crew. First game jitters for our young players. Hopefully, game 2 can see all of our players available to deliver on our fast paced game on young legs. Bring on game 2. Once again, don't depend on this, y'all. Once again, we've got to be more creative and we got to figure out a slow down Eastern Conference playoff style. If we can get up and down the court, that's fantastic, but don't count on it. And maybe I'm being a negative Eeyore right here, but I'm just being a realist in some ways. I know I say that term against other people, and just knowing the history of the NBA, this is just not how it works. We cannot play an up-tempo game and just think that we're going to get to. I wish it was like that. I wish it was like that to get a fast-paced game up. That's just not happening. They police the pace of the game, and it's just not something that we should be game planning that we think we can do because I don't think we will be able to do this because it's just not playoff basketball. It's just not the way the refs allow the game to be had. They're going to gatekeep in that. The jitters were there, but I felt like they performed fine. And Brandon kind of alluded to them in the post game saying, yeah, some of the young guys were nervous and that energy can kind of be around the team. But to be honest, in other years where we've had people have nervous jitters, I think that Scotty and Malachi and those guys had more jitters in the last playoff series that we did with Philly than feeling the jitters of the guys last night. It didn't really demonstrate itself in a bad way for us where I call that as part of why we lost. I think Colin, Jacoby, and Shed had very strong
resolve and carrying themselves, and didn't really show that they had jitters. At least as far as I looked at it. At least that's how I looked at it. Jimmy's saying this: once RJ is screened, it's kind of over, and Yak is playing 1 versus 2 on the roll. Kareem has a point, but it's on the team to rotate on breakdowns. Yeah. And in some ways, it's like, once again, kudos to Kenny Atkinson for being a coach that understands weak points and utilizing. And that's definitely what they did. Because in some ways, this action is very difficult for the Raptors to guard against. And well, our coaching staff needs to adjust, like you guys are saying, and show that they're paying attention and have answers. That's what we need. Josh Monroe's saying roster construction is coming back to bite them. The draft will be telling as to what direction they're going with need serious upgrades. Yes and no. I mean, we could always try and improve the team over time, but I don't know if, like, I don't like how you're saying roster construction is coming back to bite them. We have a good roster construction. We have a better roster construction than a couple years ago. We're more balanced and we have more different kind of options. And so, I mean, this is just one game. Let's not overreact and say that our roster construction is bad just because of a opening playoff game in a first round. I would say that. Kareem's saying this: we need Scotty on one of our guards and frustrate them. On one of their guards and frustrate them. That lineup would look like Yak, Colin, Bi, Walter, and Scotty. Yeah, I don't think Jarko's interested in doing that from the way he answered that question though yesterday. He highly values Scotty playing front court defense and not being in the backcourt. And he has more trust in guys like Shed and Walter to guard tough guys like Mitchell and Harden. And maybe that's folly, but he made it very clear. He's like, I'm designating Scotty for Evan Mobley, and that's who I'd want him to guard. He made that very clear in the interview yesterday. You're pushing for him to guard Harden. That's not what Darko wants to do. He wants the guards to guard Harden. And to an extent, they did a good job. You know, Harden and Mitchell were kind of on yesterday. There's going to be games where they're not on, and they're going to miss more than they make, and we will win those games. Watch. But they, you know, part of it was that Mitchell got going. You know, Strus and him got going in the second half, and that hurt us. That hurt us bad because Mitchell didn't do a whole lot in the first half. If you really look at the stat line, we covered him up real nice for most of the game. Then everything fell apart, and then Mitchell got loose. And, you know, if we cover things up for the whole 48, we can kind of smother Mitchell and make him not be a factor in the game. And I don't think that, you know, Scotty just being the answer to all the questions and saying, oh, we just move Scotty to the backcourt to guard the people in the backcourt. It's not really an answer. It's not really an answer for this. I also don't really like Scott running point in the middle of the game. I feel like that opens him up to more turnovers and getting off the game in the other areas where he could be more effective for us. We have guys that can handle the ball and pass the ball around. In fact, I kind of wish Darko would run Jacoby at point when he's out there and there's no point guard and Scotty not running the point, because Jacoby is an adequate ball handler and guy who can do this kind of stuff. And in some ways, you know, we want Scotty to score more too. And when he's on ball, he's passing too much to me. And I'd rather have him off ball so that he can maybe get the post and start shooting turnaround middies and stuff like that. Let's see. Jimmy's saying a win tomorrow will be huge. I believe they have it in them. We're coming back to Toronto 1-1. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why don't overreact to yesterday. The serve was held, and they got to try and hold serve again tomorrow, and we're going to try and mess that up. And we have all the opportunity in the world to make things bad for Cavs Nation tomorrow. We really do. They did a good job keeping the Cavs crowd quiet in the first half. The fans looked really scared and worried about the Raptors, and they were very sheepish about getting too loud. Their crowd is kind of lame anyway. They seem like they're kind of lethargic and lazy people that just are kind of sitting there like bumps on the log. Well, when they come back to Toronto and we see the Scotiabank crowd, the difference will be shown. Trust me. Yeah, that Cleveland crowd's weird, man. Really weird kind of crowd there. Yeah, they were doing this thing in the middle of the game yesterday, an in-game ops game where they had staring contests, and they actually found a Raptor fan that was in the Cleveland arena, and they pitted him against Cleveland fans, and he was kicking all their asses. And this was when we were still winning in the beginning of the game, and it was hilarious. This dude just had eyes that just don't blink. and he's staring, and he kicked like 3 Cavs fans' asses in the staring contest. They all blinked before him, and they switched off of him without him losing because he was just undefeated. So they didn't like that. Their in-game ops were actually getting beat by a Raptors fan in the arena. Kudos to that guy. He was cool as hell. And they had to switch away from him because he never got beat, but he was cleaning house, beating all the Cavs fans in this stupid in-game ops timeout game they were doing, which was awesome. I love that. I was all for that. It was cool, man. It was funny. They had to switch away from him. It's hilarious. Jats do it. Thanks for the subscription and welcome to the Raptor Freak channel. Need a big man who can control the paint. Easy points. Without this, Cavs in 6. Well, we'll just have to see. We've done really well against Mobley and Allen during the regular season this year. And I think that they came out with an extra fire. We saw Jared Allen moving very well. There was some ideas about whether Jared was actually healthy or not. And some people were saying he's not totally healthy right now, but he looked like he was healthy the way he was moving towards the basket in the first quarter. So, I mean, we'll see. I don't like any Raptors fans predicting Cavs in 6, so tread lightly on that. But if you're not a Raptors fan, well, you go ahead and say that. But yeah, we're very much for our team. And we're predicting Raptors in 6 still, even if we drop the first one. Yeah, we're going to keep going. G saying this, James scored 22 points. He didn't drop 40. That's pretty good defense as far as I'm concerned. We can do even better on him, though, because he did shoot a decent percentage. Well, I want to see him shoot like 30% or lower from field goal. And we can get him to that point. We just really got to play against his tendencies and put him in the places like Sandro said in his interview on Friday or this week. We just got to play to Mitchell and Harden going to the places where they're least effective and kind of corralling them and pushing them in those directions more. And if we do that more, they could be less lethal towards us, Let's see. G saying the bigger problem was Strus, in my opinion. He got hot and helped their momentum. Mitchell is an elite scorer and will get his points. Limit the others. Mitchell on his own can't win. Yeah. And that's sometimes the strategy with these top level guys that are absolutely badass is they're going to get theirs, but just don't let anybody else kill you like Max Strus. And that definitely was a huge X factor. Strus in the third quarter. Him by himself. Let's see. Kareem saying Strauss is Strus. There's no A in there. Kind of saved them yesterday. He's not going to average 24 points a game for the rest of the series. We got this. Game 2 is ours. We head to Toronto. Fuck the Cavaliers. I mean, yeah, adjust and find Max Strus better tomorrow is what I would say to the Raptors. All right, let me start checking on my tabs, and we'll start moving towards getting out of here. Let me see if there's any breaking news about Raptors or tempo related things right now. No, not really. Doesn't look like it at this point. That's probably good. All right, let's do straight goods on Canadian goods, guys. Y'all, today all that in a can of beans. Today I'm doing the Spray Cannery Maritime baked beans once again. Experience the rich, deep flavor of the Maritimes with Maritime baked beans and blackstrap molasses, slow cooked and robust molasses sauce. These beans offer a bold, slightly sweet taste that's rich in tradition and full of nutrients, perfect for a hearty meal that brings a taste of the East Coast to your table. That's right. Spray Cannery is here in Ontario, and as you can say, this is made in Canada, and you don't need Bush's baked beans. You don't need any American corporations' beans, and I'm not getting paid to do this advertisement. I am doing this advertisement because I believe in the economy of Canada, and I believe in good Canadian companies like Spray Cannery, established in 1925. And so if you want more help with finding Canadian products, buy Spray Cannery baked beans. And yeah, these are fantastic baked beans. I switched over them like over a year ago, and I have not looked back. And I'll buy my beans from Canadian company right there. Processed, produced, and made in Canada by a Canadian company. That's right. Straight goods on Canadian goods. If you want baked beans, Spray. That's your can right there. That's your can right there. All right. Yeah, let's keep going in the tabs. Let's see. I have my tempo Redditor of the day is Kerfuffles 80. Kerfuffles has been very active on the Toronto Tempo Reddit. And well, they've shared a TikTok of Isabel Harrison of the Toronto Tempo trying ketchup chips. And this is a rite of passage for any athlete who's never been to Canada, and they got to come to Canada and try the ketchup chips. This has become a thing, and she likes them. She's not really a ketchup person in her regular life, but she doesn't mind the ketchup on the flavoring on the potato chip. And she also has an all dressed bag. So she's going to try all dressed chips also and do a taste test like that. So far, I'm liking the social media interaction of the Toronto Tempo players since they've arrived in Toronto for training camp. They're very much into cool stuff, like Nyara Sabali going around the city and trying coffee shops, and Temi talking about bubble tea and stuff the other night. And now Isabel's doing chips reviews. And I think she gave the ketchup chips a 7.3 out of 10 is what she said. So yeah, keep on going, ladies. We enjoy your opinions. We enjoy your creativity on social media and posting your interesting posts. So Izzy, thank you for the ketchup chips review. And we look forward to you getting on the court for Coach Sandy on the Toronto Tempo court on Coca-Cola Coliseum. That's right. There you go. There's your Tempo Redditor of the day, Kerfuffles 80. Happy birthday to former assistant coach of the Raptors, Mike Evans. Mike Evans turned 71 today. He was assistant coach for the Raptors in the years of 2007 to 2009. So, yeah, he was around a bad part of the NBA, the history of the Raptors. But either way, happy birthday to former NBA player Mike Evans, who went on to become an assistant coach for us around 2007, 2009. And he's 71 today. We also have a big birthday today for one of our important Canadian players who's in the playoffs right now, and that is our guy, Kelly Olynyk. Happy birthday to Kelly. Kelly, of course, played for the Raptors for 2 seasons. He got 52 games of service in the Raptors uniforms, 21 starts, and he averaged 10 points a game and 5 rebounds a game. So happy birthday to Kelly Olynyk of the San Antonio Spurs, former Raptor, and a great Team Canada player for many, many years, kid from Scarborough. Yeah, we love you, Kelly, and we hope you have a fantastic day today with the Spurs win on your birthday. How about that? There you go. So happy birthday, Kelly. It is Kelly Olynyk's birthday. Let's see. I guess we'll go on and do the classic card and go ahead and get that done now and finish up soon. I guess I'm over 2 hours. Yeah, I'm at 2:16, so I might as well. UC saying Raptors in 6. Donovan and Mitchell, Donovan and Harden going to show their weaknesses more and more as the series progresses. Not even worried about the so-called Defensive Player of the Year and Jared Allen. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on all that. All right, guys, here's the classic card of the day. Please write in the full name answer to get the points. Here you go. Let's see who remembers who this is. We had a dunk champion the other day, and, well, it looks like we got another one today. So if you know who this former dunk champion is there, yeah, it's all good. UC, I knew what you meant. There. Do y'all know who that is right there? This guy? I know who the other guy is. His last name's on the back. It says Johnson. Yeah, that's right, Isaac. You know who it is. It's Cedric Ceballos. Of course, Cedric was won the dunk competition. This is weird. Is this a rookie card for Cedric? Wow, that's pretty cool. This is a rookie card. Slug Deezy got the answer, but he retracted it. Kevin Johnson and Cedric Ceballos. You guys remember in that dunk contest, Cedric Ceballos supposedly wore a blindfold over his eyes and dunked it. Yeah, that was kind of a messed up dunk contest. Everybody knew he could see through that blindfold. Come on. You think Cedric Ceballos dunked blindly with a blindfold on? No way, man. There's no way he could have done that. I mean, I guess he could have timed it, but there's a little bit of ability to see through that fabric. And I'm pretty sure that's how he did it. Either way, Cedric Ceballos is the classic card of the day, and the benevolent one, Isaac Campbell, is collecting the points for today. So, yeah, let me put it in. Cedric Ceballos. Yeah, he was a pretty cool player. He was fun to watch. He was entertaining. He was a little bit more sizzled than steak, but still, he was a fun player to watch. Isaac. And you know what? I'll give you 100 points. 100 points for this classic card today, Cedric Ceballos. It was pretty classic. You love the Suns from those years? So you're a Barkley, Hornacek, Kevin Johnson, Mark West, Tom Chambers, Dan Marley kind of guy. Yeah, those Suns teams from the late 80s into early 90s were pretty cool. They were fun to watch. Yeah, I used to be a Kevin Johnson fan until I found out more about him later on and when he was the mayor and all this his scandals. But yeah, Kevin Johnson, back in the day, watching him in the NBA, wow, he was an exciting player to watch for sure. All right, let's wrap it up. I'll come back tomorrow at 9:30 to do the preview for game 2. I'll have the latest lineup news. Hopefully, we'll have some good news about Emmanuel quickly. And also, I'll have the ref report with looking at all the numbers and seeing what crew we get. This could be a huge factor tomorrow again, is the referees. You know, Carl Lane is a fantastic ref. He did a good job for us yesterday. Brent Bernecki was fair. And Tony Brothers, a little bit of insidiousness on the down low in some ways that I didn't really agree with or like. But overall, a pretty well refed game yesterday by those guys. And once again, we can't blame the refs for why we lost yesterday. That's for damn sure. We can blame a letdown of intensity and not playing exactly right by our own team. And, you know, the Cavs are going to do what they're going to do. We have to match that energy and go above and beyond it. And our team did not do that yesterday. And that is part of it right there. UC saying, take care, Raptor Freaks. This is just the beginning for multiple playoff runs with Scotty and the Raptors. That's right. I love that. That's the right attitude. And I love that we got our feet on the ground for the first time with this crew and with Darko. And, well, we got our first taste. And, well, it's learning experience. And the Raptors are better for it, even if they lost yesterday. I felt the vibes. It felt like we can win this series. That's what I felt yesterday. Anyway, y'all, I hope y'all have a great Sunday. And I'll see y'all tomorrow at 9:30 for previewing game 2. And let's go Raptors. Keep your head up. Make the adjustments. Do the hard work tomorrow in the game so that you guys can get a better outcome. And I know y'all are going to go over a lot of stuff in film today. And make sure that you get good sleep and good rest and recovery to be physically prepared for tomorrow also. And once again, I'll say this. If y'all aren't leaving everything on the court and you are not completely exhausted after these playoff games, you're not putting enough into it, is what I'm going to say right now. You should be absolutely dog tired. It's like Darko said, when I see Shed so tired on the court, I know he's doing good work on defense and he's doing a good job for us. So Raptors, leave it all on the court. If you're leaving any of it somewhere else, you're not doing this right, is what I'm saying right now. All right, y'all. I love you guys, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Let's go Tempo. Let's go Raptors, and I'll see you tomorrow at 9:30 for a preview for game 2. Let's go Raptors.